When I read mystery books, they're more of a palate cleanser read, meaning I really don't try that hard to guess on what's going to happen in the book. But what if I did? Could I actually pick up on all the clues, sort out the red herrings, and solve the mystery before the main character does? Or will I look like a complete fool on the internet, like I normally do? I, Natalie Hoover, will be trying to solve the mystery of the 7.5 deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Okay, if you couldn't understand that, I'm gonna be trying to solve the 7.5 deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Guys, the universe took the mustache out of existence. I can't find it. Oh, it's in my hair! So basically this girl Evelyn, or Eve if you want to give her a nickname, dies at the masquerade ball at her parents' English courthouse in the 1920s. Every day until this guy Aiden over here can figure out who is murdering her. And you know, stop the killing. This isn't just an ordinary time loop though, no. In this one, Aiden wakes up in the body of a different guest of the gala every day. Living as some of them will get him lots of clues and others not so much. So my goal is to figure out who her killer is before Aiden does. This man right here is my competition. And I think I have the better mustache. And I'll be winning this competition by following my 3-step plan. 1 being, don't fall for red herrings. I always do, but this time I'm not gonna. Number 2, don't think that actual clues are just red herrings. That's something I also always do, but again, I'm not gonna do it this time. And 3, actually pay attention and don't just get lost in the story. Because I've been told this is a very solvable book if I simply pay attention. That will be our biggest hurdle to overcome. And now, with this plan laid out, I'm going to be reading for the entirety of the first chapter of this book. I just put this over my nostrils. I cannot breathe right now. Now that I can breathe, I'll be reading the entirety of the first night of this book, and then I'll come back here to explain it all to you so we can start picking apart those clues and getting a little closer to solving who her murderer is. Now, obviously, after going through this first night, this board is going to fill up a lot. All I know right now is that these 2 people exist. I know nothing else. So don't worry, it's not going to be barren for much longer. But I'm going to get to the hard work and start solving this murder. All right, I'm gonna go read this and leave this here. That is not comfortable. I got my tabs, I got my multiple highlighters and a pencil or a pen, that's what that is, and I got the book. Also, there's a fun little guest list in the front, and I very much appreciate that. And we're told not to discuss Thomas Hardcastle and Charlie Carver, as the tragic events surrounding them still grieve the family greatly. What is happening at this house? Is everybody dying? I'm suspicious of the mom and dad already. Okay, wait, whoa, slow down. I'm ready to start solving this mystery. I also have bad news right now. Looking a little further ahead, I don't think it smoothly goes through one night after one night, so it's gonna get complicated here in future parts of this video, but luckily, right now, we just have to focus on one guy. See, Aiden over here is in the body of Seb Belly, or Dr. Sebastian Bell, except he doesn't know what's going on yet. They have no clue. Sebastian Bell, he's just in the body of Sebastian Bell thinking he can't remember who he is. That mustache is not staying on. All right, folks, let's get into this. We start off with our main character calling out for Anne, except he doesn't know anybody named Anne. Actually, he doesn't know anybody. All he knows right now is that he's in the middle of the forest and it's the morning. Sometime in the morning. That's literally all he can figure out. Having no clue what else to do at this point, he decides to just keep calling out for Anne because really, what can that hurt? Except he's only answered by a "help me." So things are going great in the forest in the morning for him right now. And then he sees a woman being chased by a man through the forest. He starts chasing after them, but can't quite catch up, and then he hears a gunshot go off, and Anne's screaming stops. So he stops as well because now he's in the forest with a murderer. Things just keep getting better for our main character right now, who doesn't even know his own name. He's just standing there trying not to die, but then the cracking of twigs starts to move closer to him, and he's like, well, this is my time. I'm going out not knowing who the hell I was. take me now, I guess. Lord, I don't even know if he knows who the Lord is. But he's ready and accepting his fate. But the murderer just comes up, puts a compass in his pocket, and whispers in his ear so nicely, "East." And I guess they fall in love now? No. Actually, he's very creeped out and he starts just following the compass east because what else is he supposed to do at this point? He eventually finds some red handkerchiefs tied up in the trees and he follows those all the way to a beautiful Georgian manor that looks abandoned, but there is a light on. When he starts knocking on the door of this manor, nobody answers it for a good minute or so, but then when somebody finally does, they're just shocked to see him and they look a little singed. He's trying to explain that there's been a murder out in the woods and they need to move now, but this little bit singed man is like, yeah, he's not saying anything. He's just shocked to see our main character there right now. So Sebastian over here pushes past him to get into the house only to be met with half a dozen servants just staring at him. But eventually somebody with their wits about them does show up. It's a blonde, handsome man who looks to be in his 50s. Sebastian over here quickly explains that somebody has been murdered in the woods and they need to call the police right now. The man who has found him though stops him from talking and he's like, whoa, you see all those servants over there? Yeah, they're gonna take any information you say right now and they're gonna spread it to everybody else really fast, so we're gonna talk in private. And Blondie over here has to reveal that there's no line up here, so they can't call the police. They would have to ride down to town to do that. They're very secluded up here. It's like the manor in Clue, where they can't call anybody, it's really far out of the way, nobody's gonna be passing by. And also, Blondie over here doesn't know who Anne is and doesn't think anybody else in the house does either. Sebastian over here was just told his own name and he has to explain, yeah, he lost his memories, so he doesn't know who Anne is either. Just nobody knows who Anne is, but Anne is dead in the woods, apparently. He hands over the only proof he has that he saw anybody else in the woods, the compass, over to Blondie over here, for Blondie to turn over the compass and see the initials SB for Seb Belly, Sebastian Bell. Okay, so Sebastian over here, he's got his compass. North, south, east, west, never eat. That's wrong. It's supposed to be north, east, southwest, but we're leaving it at that. After looking at this compass though, it's clear that Blondie over here is not going to jump into action right away, and Sebastian is still trying to stress his point that he saw a woman get shot in those woods, and they really need to go to town to tell somebody about this. But Blondie's like, look dude, Anne is already dead. Her murderer has already fled from the scene, obviously. There's nothing the police can do because it's the 1920s. He also explains that Sebastian isn't looking too great and he needs to take a little bit of a breather here. Needs to rest a little, get his wits about him, so if they really can do anything, he'll actually have a brain to do it, because right now he's not thinking clearly. This settles him down a little. He's like, yeah, okay, there's nothing I can really do for her at this point if she's already dead. I need to rest, get my wits about me. Do I have any family or friends in this house? And they're like, no, you don't. You actually have no family at all. But he does have friends, and that includes Blondie over here. Blondie now leaves to give Sebastian a little time to rest and get cleaned up because he's covered in mud. And this gives Sebastian a little time to explore his room, see if there's any personal items in here, but it's only a guest room, so there really isn't much. But he does find the letter he got inviting him here, and it reads, Lord and Lady Hardcastle request the pleasure of your company at a masquerade ball celebrating the return of their daughter, Evelyn, from Paris. Celebrations will take place at Blackheath House over the second weekend of September. Owing to Blackheath's isolation, transports to the house will be arranged for our guests from the nearby villages of Aberley. So nobody has their own modes of transportation here. It is all relying on the people who invited them here. Suspicious? I think so. And this invitation here is addressed to one Dr. Sebastian Bell. So now he knows he is a doctor, but small problem. He doesn't remember how to be a doctor, and he's now very concerned for his patients whenever he gets out of this house. After reading this, he goes into the bathroom where he finally sees his own reflection, only to be pretty disappointed by it. He's just a face that would get lost in a crowd, in his own words. Oh my gosh. We'll honor the mustache. It can stay there. He's interrupted from looking at himself by somebody knocking on the door. He cautiously goes to open it because they haven't announced themselves, and it turns out to be a one Dr. Richard Aker, who goes by Dr. Dickey. Isn't that fun? He's in his early 60s and he smells of brandy is really the only trait we have of him right now. He walks into the room, kicks this man's luggage, saying that he must have bricks in there and looking at it expectantly. Do you get the hint? Because Sebastian sure doesn't, and I didn't get the hint the first time I was reading. Obviously, Sebastian has no clue what is actually in the suitcase. There's a lock on it, so he can't just get in. Dr. Dickey introduces himself officially now to Sebastian and also explains that the man that was in here earlier was a one Daniel. What was his last name? Didn't write it down. Coolidge. It was like Coolidge. Anyways, the doctor finally begins to talk to the other doctor about his symptoms, and he begins to explain that he can't really remember anything, but there is this voice in his head that seems pretty sure about what it's thinking and is almost judging him at times. And our doctor's like, that's normal when you lose your memory. Sounds like you'll be fine. Just take some walks, talk to some friends. Everything's gonna work out. Oh, and also he should really try to talk to a one Michael Hardcastle because apparently they're also friends. He's really more concerned about the knife wounds on this guy's arm. Yeah, apparently his arms look like he was blocking a knife from hitting him in a more vital spot and they're just all slashed up and he doesn't notice that until right now, until the other doctor says something about it. This freaks him out even more because now not only has he witnessed somebody get murdered, but it's clear that he also had to defend his own life at some point last night, and he doesn't remember who did any of this. Dr. Dickey over here is like, you should inform the police immediately, and Sebastian Bell already knew this, but Dr. Dickey's like, go talk to the stable master. He'll be able to help you get to town. Now, right this second, there's already about 20 suspects just in the house currently that are here early for the masquerade ball that's going to be here tonight, but there are 30 more guests coming this evening that could also be suspects maybe. So there's a lot of people to root through. But Sebastian over here, he doesn't really want to do that. He just wants to go home. He's tired. He saw somebody die, and now he's pretty sure somebody tried to kill him last night as well. So he goes, gets cleaned up, and then looks for his compass, but it appears Daniel took it because it's not where he left it anymore, and goes downstairs to try to find him, but sees Daniel nowhere down there. He looks over the faces of the rest of the guests that are there, but doesn't really recognize anybody. It's clear the men are ready to go out for the hunt. Clearly the women are not because they're women. They can't go hunting. No. I feel like on Downton Abbey I saw the women go hunting sometimes all the time, but I don't know. What am I to... Who am I? The only thing he can really pick up on from all these people is that they're pretty annoyed that Lady Hardcastle hasn't made an appearance yet. I mean, she's in the manor. She just hasn't said hi to a single one of them, which is a little rude. And then he watches as a innocent little maid tries to squeeze by somebody and she goes, oh, sorry, Ted. Excuse me, Ted. And Ted then grabs her wrist and he's like, why'd you call me Ted? I'm not Ted anymore to you. I don't live down there with those little rats anymore. Nobody's really stepping up for the maid, but then Daniel walks in the room and he's like, no, stop it. Let her go, Ted. And everybody calms down. He has a way of controlling the room whenever he walks in. He's very assertive. Everybody seems to listen to him and respect him. So, could he be our murderer? Because it's always the ones you trust the most, I feel like. Every single time it's the ones I trust the most. But he has too much page time to be the murderer, so I'm not really feeling like it's him right now, but it could be. But now a new guy steps into the room to put himself on the stage of possibly being a murderer. He has lots of energy, he's very fun, and this is a one Michael Hardcastle. So he is the son of the people that actually own this manor. And as it turns out, Michael was actually the one that was sitting next to our Sebastian Bell over here at dinner last night. And he remembers seeing Sebastian Bell get a note from somebody, and that's when he ran off. And even though he offered to go with Sebastian, Sebastian was very adamant that he had to do this alone and told him nothing more about this. Also, Michael also doesn't know who Anna is. Nobody knows who Anna is, okay? Just from here on out, nobody knows. And I will update you if somebody does. But Anna right now is basically a ghost. Well, she kind of literally is too, isn't she? Whew. Sorry about that, Anna. He does have an idea on how to find her. Since they're going out on a hunt this morning, they're going to be going into the woods, so he asked Sebastian to point roughly where he thinks she was shot last night so they can at least go by there and check if there's a dead body. But that's really boring because now we get some more backstory on Michael over here that his father brought them all here when his political career was failing or stalling out for the time being. And then it's brought up that his brother was murdered by a boy named Charlie Carver, and the groundskeeper at the time was the one to find them. But this happened 19 years ago, so nobody's really concerned about it anymore. I mean, like, the kid's already dead. He's been dead for a good 20 years. What are you gonna do about it? It's sad, but we all gotta move on, I guess, because he's acting like it's no big deal that they're back for the first time at the house where his brother died. To be fair, he was only like 5 or 7. More on the backstory. Charlie and this other man that also helped kill his little brother were drunk one day, and then they were messing around with him, and then they drowned him in the lake and then finished him off with a knife. So charming. And that's when Ted, the groundskeeper, the really mean man earlier, was the one to find them. He was rewarded for this very nicely by being given a plantation in Africa, I think? Yeah. Anyways, he got that. And then made his riches off of it, so now he's one of the wealthy, powerful people in the world, along with the Hardcastles. Now, Charlie has been caught, he was dealt with, he's still in jail somewhere or was executed, who knows? We don't get those details. But his accomplice is still at large, so he could be the one murdering people right now. Who knows? It's probably not going to be that guy, though. Let's all be so honest right now. That's never how this works out. It's probably going to be freaking Michael because he's, like, annoyed at somebody for something and he's like, my brother died, so I get to take a life now. I don't know. Maybe that's what happens. I'm just throwing things at the wall, hoping one of them sticks, even if it's not my final guess, so I can be like, hey, at one point I was smart. It's not going to happen. Daniel eventually gets them all back on track of the current conversation because this is all ancient history. It happened 19 years ago. Nobody cares anymore. And finally, they get him refocused on pointing at the spot in the woods where he thinks he came from, but, like, he doesn't really know. It was not a good time in his very short life of memories that he has. These chapters, whenever they cut, take a good, like, couple minutes to an hour's time jump, so it may seem a little choppy when I'm making those transitions, but that's just kind of how the book is. That's how a lot of books are, honestly. They don't always just, like, smoothly sail through. You just get used to it. I feel like it just sounds weirder when I'm saying it, so I'm gonna explain it right now, okay? Anyway, Sebastian was invited to go out with the hunting party, but he declined to do that because he just wants to get out of here, but he's hoping maybe they can help out, and, but she's dead, so, like, maybe they can at least find her. That would be nice. As he's watching them all get ready to go out, he hears a little noise behind him, and then he turns around to see a giant crow in the doorway. This creature takes a step towards him and tells him he doesn't have to be afraid. Is this an angel from the Bible? But good news, it's not a crow or an angel from the Bible. Those guys are really scary in person if you don't know Christian history, lore. Lore! If you don't know Christian lore, that doesn't sound right. But anyways, like, angels are these, like, giant, scary eye creatures. They're not like those cute little cherub guys. No. They're terrifying, so luckily he doesn't look like that. He's just like a guy in a plague doctor mask because they're having a masquerade ball tonight. He's asking Sebastian what he brought with him, and Sebastian's like, I don't know, man, I lost all my memories. And he's like, no. When you came to this morning, what did you bring with you? He's not answering because he's just confused right now. But this man insists that he actually knows Sebastian already and just asks him what word he woke up with. And he's like, Anne? And the Crow Man says, that's unfortunate. Thanks, buddy. Our dude's like, hey, can you take off the creepy crow mask? Because this is just a terrifying situation right now and I don't like it. Crow Guy goes, this is the least of your worries. Oh, goody. Then he just goes on about how they'll have work to do, but not today and not while he's in this state. But tells him that in the meantime, he should acquaint himself with Blackkeith and the guests that are here currently. And really emphasizes the fact that he should enjoy this while he still can, because the Footman will find him soon. Can I get an answer to a single question I have? Who's Anne? Don't know. Who's Crow Dude? Don't know. Who's the Footman? Don't know. Why is Sebastian waking up like this? I don't know. Where does Aiden get involved in any of this? Because apparently this is Aiden's consciousness in this guy and nothing's being explained. And Sebastian's like, yo, is this Footman guy responsible for Anna's death or Anne's death and my cuts on my arm? And he's like, no. If you met him, you wouldn't be alive right now, silly. So, that's so good. And then actual bird slams into the window and we just see it like fall down. It's dead. And then when he turns back around, Plague Doctor Mask Crow Guy, he's gone. Now the name the Footman means nothing to him, as it should, but it does invoke this sense of fear in him. So I think that's a really, really great sign. Really reassuring, guys. Anyways, this just refills the fire that he has in him to get out of here, so he goes straight to the stable master. He gets there, Main thing, there's no horses there. And then he goes into this little room, dries off his gloves because it's raining outside right now and he just has them hanging above a fire, and then goes to write a note on the door, except there's already a note waiting for him. And it reads, "Don't leave Blackheath. More lives than your own are depending on you. Meet me by the mausoleum." It's like slightly cursive and I barely know how to read it. "Mausoleum in the family graveyard at 10:20 p.m. and I'll explain everything. Oh, and don't forget your gloves. They're burning. Love, Anne." Anna. It's Anna. I'm so sorry to any Annas. I've been really pissing off lately. So obviously that is wonderful news, but he doesn't have time to focus on that right now because his gloves are actually burning. Guys, I thought this was like a normal mystery book and it was just this fun time loop thing, but it's getting real supernatural real fast. Now, he would really like to believe this is all a trick, but there's nothing to prove that it is, because nobody knows who Anna is, so who would have written this note? How would have Anna written this earlier? He doesn't know, but he figures he's just gonna ask her tonight at the graveyard. And he figures if he's gonna be stuck here a little while longer, he might as well actually try to find out some information, starting with finding out who gave him that note last night, and maybe one of the maids who gave it to him read it. When he gets back into the house, he overhears a couple of maids talking. One of them is talking about how Helena has gone mad, and the other one is like, you can't say that about her. But when he walks into the room, they both shut up. When he asks them about the servants serving dinner last night, and if they know who gave him the note, or if it was one of them, they let him know that Evelyn Hardcastle, who is entertaining the ladies in the sunroom, would probably know more about this because they really obviously don't want to talk to him. So he goes over to talk to Evie, that we find out is her preferred nickname. So sorry for saying we could call you Eve earlier. That was my bad. He walks into this room. All the ladies are there, and there's also this one really old man playing chess with Evie, and Evie is not having a great time. He makes a little remark, so it's clear that he knows something about chess, which is super exciting. But Evie catches on to this as well, and she's like, hey, after I'm done playing with Lord Ravencourt, you should play me. And that's exactly what they do. He informs Evie about the note he was given last night and how he's looking for the servant that brought it to him. And she's like, oh, we should go talk to Mr. Collins. He'll know exactly who brought it to you because he knows everything every servant does here because he's the head butler. Small problem though, Mr. Collins was assaulted this morning and was advised by Dr. Dickey to go get some rest in the gatehouse because all the guest rooms here are currently full. Evie is more than happy to get out of this room with all these random women that she really hasn't known for a year. So they go on a little walk, and it's revealed that Gregory Golden was the one who attacked Mr. Collins with a fire poker last night, and now they're having to deal with that whole situation. We also learn that this isn't Evelyn's home. She actually lives in Paris. She has since her brother died 19 years ago. She was kind of banished there. They bond over this walk, they become good friends, he gets the permission to call her Evie, she gets permission to call him Sebastian, and they make it to the gatehouse. She takes a look around for a second to make sure her father isn't in there and is actually on the hunt because she doesn't want to talk to him, and then they go check in on one room, but it's the wrong room and there's just a man hanging by his wrists in there with his feet barely touching the ground, but she tells him not to worry because that's Gregory Golden, and he's the one who attacked Colin, so he really deserves this, and her father just decided to take out some of his anger on him, but oh well. Sebastian's like, should we allow this? Should the police not be involved? And she's like, no, the police will be here, but he's got to suffer in the meantime. Let's go find Collins. And so they just leave him in there. They get into the room with Mr. Collins, and Sebastian's like, oh my gosh, this is the guy who let me in this morning that looked a little burned. Remember that? So turns out he's over here passed out, and one of the maids is here currently. When she sees Sebastian, she's clearly a little shocked and recognizes him. And he's like, hey, did you give me a note last night at dinner or anything? Like, was that you? And no, it wasn't her, but she does know that Madeline is the one who gave it to him. And Madeline just so happens to be Evie's lady's maid. So it's gonna be really easy to talk to her, but she is currently out with the hunting party serving drinks and stuff like that, but she should be back here in just a couple hours. My camera overheated. They decide they might as well go ahead and head into the woods so they can intercept Madeline on her way back, get her a little earlier so they can figure out what was in this note, because Evelyn says it's not a maybe, it's a she definitely read what's in that note. Madeline over here is a baddie, and she considers this a privilege of the job. She's like, yeah, I may be a lady's maid, but I will read all your mail and I'm gonna tell you to your face. They're waiting at this cute little wishing well area, and it's clear Evelyn covers up a note that was left for her. Now Sebastian is assuming this is a note from a lover, but what if it's not? What if this note is important? Yep, I'll remember what that means. I don't like this whole lover plotline. Looking at the next page of my script, I just put, anyways. Evelyn starts to tell us about how her brother and her used to come here all the time when they were little, and they used to put pebbles in the wishing well. No, we're not going down that route in this book. That's not what's happening. It's just a weird correlation that Sebastian made, and then why are we instantly talking about her brother? And it's weird vibes. They're standing there for a bit, they're talking about some other random stuff, and all of a sudden he notices the trails that are there, and he sees one of them that's straight ahead that leads directly to the lake. The lake where Thomas was murdered. And then Evelyn kindly gives us a little more information on Thomas's murder. It turns out Evie over here was actually supposed to be looking after Thomas that day, and well, she made up this little scavenger hunt so she could go do her own things and the kids could hang out by themselves. So you can only imagine how much guilt a literal child would carry after her brother died when she was supposed to be watching him, but she was still very young when this all happened, like not even 10, I think. The person who ended up helping her through all this was Michael, and even though she tried to push him away over and over again when they were kids, he would not give up. And so that's what eventually brought her back to herself, really. But I'm wondering, does Michael over here hold a little resentment that he had to help Evie through that? Does he maybe actually hold her a bit accountable for his brother's death? Who knows? It's a possibility. It's always those happy-go-lucky, bubbly characters that you're like, oh, they're just so nice, but they get minimal page time, so they just go over your head. Now, will he get minimal page time? I don't know. I'm only like 70 pages into this book. Oh, and we also learn it wasn't her choice to move to Paris, where she's been living forever and ever and ever now for the last 19 years. That was actually her getting banished there by her parents. I may have said that earlier, but I wasn't supposed to. Oopsies. Because her parents have never been able to forgive her. Now, this whole big thing may seem like a party to everybody else, but this is on the 19-year anniversary. 19-year anniversary to the day of when Thomas was killed. And her mother, just this morning, invited her to go out to the lake together, and she's like, oh, maybe a bonding moment. Nope, her mom didn't show up. It was clear her mother just wanted her to remember that she failed her brother, and that's where her brother died. And you know the guests that are all here? These are the exact same guests that were here 19 years ago. We basically just guaranteed that the murderer from 19 years ago, who has been on the loose all these years, is here again. And what if they set this up as a trap? What if they set this up as a trap and they're like, hopefully he'll kill Evie this time because we're still mad at her. Okay, we're going a little off the rails. Let me refocus. After they talk a little bit more, she mutters to herself, which, I mean, there's two of you out here. I don't know why you didn't think he wouldn't hear this, but she's like, you've changed so much. And he's like, what do you mean I've changed so much? You knew me before? And she's like, not really. I only knew rumors about you. And he's like, please tell me. Literally nobody's told me anything about myself, and I need somebody to tell me, even if they're rumors. That's fine. And she's like, cool. You want to know? You were a dope dealer. Yeah. And all he knows about himself now is that he's a big, giant coward. His words, not mine. Well, not his exact words, but like basically I'm paraphrasing. It's fine, whatever. Anyways, big giant coward and dope dealer. He's not liking the man that he used to be, and all of a sudden, everybody looking at him expectantly wasn't them being really concerned about him or hoping his memories would come back. It was just them hoping that hopefully the drugs would be back in play soon. This sends him running back to the house to the locked suitcase to open that up. Now, Evie follows him back to the house so she can help him open the suitcase. She sits on it. He's hammering something on it to get the lock off. And when he opens it, it is empty, besides for a single chess piece that has the name Anna on it. I'm not gonna forget that either. It's actually really hard to forget it's on the cover of the book as well as the compass. Yeah, words, it's late. And now Evie wants to know every single detail about Sebastian's story that we already know so far. So now cut to a little before 10:20 that night. He is in his room alone now, waiting to go meet up with Evie, who insists she's coming with him to go meet up with Anna. Michael Hardcastle knocks on his door in this bright orange suit with a sun mask on him because Masquerade Ball is happening as we speak. And he had assumed Sebastian was coming tonight for some reason and is wondering why he's not dressed. And he's like, no, I'm just gonna not do that because I don't remember who I am. But this is where we get caught up on the fact that they never found Anna's body or any traces of Anna's body. So they're all assuming it was just a misunderstanding and this random Anna person is fine. But now he gets to go outside and meet up with Evie, who has brought a revolver to the situation. Now, he really doesn't want Evie to come with him because he doesn't know if this whole situation's going to be safe or not. He doesn't know if Anna's actually a good person that he trusts. But Evie's coming, and she brought a gun because she's a smart woman. On this walkover, we get to learn that Evie did talk to her lady's maid, and the note said, Meet me at our usual spot immediately. There was no signature on the note, it was just left in the kitchen. Nobody has any clue who wrote this or dropped this off. They get to the graveyard, there's an angel statue there holding a lantern that's lit in one of its like broken arms. It's a little crack broken, like this place has been abandoned for basically 19 years, okay guys? But the thing is, it's right around 10:20 and Anna is nowhere to be seen. He's starting to get a little more worried that maybe Anna isn't an ally and maybe they should just go ahead and get out of here because it's past 10:20 at this point and it's clear she's not showing up, whether she's an ally or working with them. They don't know, but she's not here. She's not appearing. But they do know that somebody had to light this lantern here, so somebody was here at some point. So they take their own little lantern and they start going back, but then they see blood on the ground and they follow that to a tombstone that has some leaves over it. And then when they clear those leaves, they find his compass sitting under there with the same initials, SB, on it. So we know it's his compass and it's just there. Now he assumed that Daniel took this earlier, so why is it here now? But maybe Daniel didn't take this at all and somebody else did. But what? Daniel was the only one with access to it. Maybe random crow man? I don't know. Crows like shiny things. Evie at this point is like, yeah, Sebastian, I think you should get out of here. But Sebastian really wants to stay here and talk to Daniel and also Anna. Hopefully, maybe if she's here. He doesn't know. But Evie is convinced that the slashes on his arms, the compass, Anna, the chess piece, are all part of a game that they don't know how to play. And he is going to get very hurt if he tries to play this game without instructions. So he kind of gives in, goes back to his room, only to be met with a box on his bed. And it's wrapped with a nice red ribbon. When he opens this box, there's a dead bunny in there. With the steak knife still in it. That's so cool. And there's this really cutesy note that's pinned to the ear saying, "From your friend, the footman." Then he just gets black that starts to swim up his vision and he passes out. Now this is where we're going to start meeting up with the next guest that he takes over, which I think was Daniel or Dr. Dickey. It was one of those two. I read like a couple words and it was like somebody we already knew about. So we're gonna get in their POV this time, but I'm sure we will come back to our main boy, Sebby Bell, over here and figure out so much of the mystery with him. But if you had to make me guess right now with only 70 pages of this book read on who the murderer was, I feel like we've had to meet them at this point, right? Is that crazy to say? Like, I feel like we're gonna meet a lot more characters, so maybe we haven't even met them, but it feels weird to not know the murderer from the start of the book. Even when you have so few characters from the start, it's normally somebody from the get-go because they want you to be able to connect all the dots from the very beginning if you ever reread. So I would say, it's not Ted because he's been obviously violent and it's never those guys. Michael over here is for some reason really suspicious to me. And like I said, I feel like maybe he's holding this grudge against his sister for this whole thing that he doesn't have his brother to love anymore. The parents may be involved somehow, but I don't think they're actually going to be the ones to kill her. And I don't know what the heck is going on with Crowman and Anna, but they seem to be more involved with Aiden taking over the consciousness of these people and trying to figure out the mystery, which he doesn't even know that he's trying to do that or that he is Sebby Bell. And whoa. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna say I'm locking in my answer for this portion as Michael or Daniel. Don't make me choose. It's too early. It's one of them in my head right now. But I don't have any facts to prove that. Daniel stole the compass, so let's put him a little ahead. And I'm gonna get some more reading done. Oh my gosh. I was wrong about the POV shift, but I'm so happy I was wrong because that first little bit was so entertaining and made so many things click from like the start of this book. This is gonna connect really nicely, isn't it? Oh, I like this. It's about to rain and storm here in Texas, and this is the perfect vibe for this book right now, and I'm so excited to sit here and read and highlight and figure out this mystery. Am I getting any closer to figuring it out? No, not really. I have discovered a few key things of people who it absolutely can't be, so I think that's good. And the story's all coming together a little more. He understands why he's there, which is nice, and we'll get into that more in a little bit. My pen just fell. But, Murder-wise, no clue. I do know that I'm right about it not being the parents because that was his first, guess on who it might be, and it's never their first guess. Now, is it? No. It's somebody you never expect. But right now, I don't know who that is. I'm not even halfway through the book, but we're gonna solve this mystery. That's what you do when you can't talk. You just decide that the accent you were just in is now an accent that you were going for. I don't know why I said book. Help. If you can't already tell, this is another late night filming. It's not even that late. It's only 9 o'clock, but I don't know. The next guest that we're visiting with through Aiden is Mr. Collins. Yes, the one and only butler. Now, Mr. Collins wakes up, he's very confused on what's going on and what these loud bells are, and eventually he gets up to go get the door, and that's when he's met with Sebastian Bell. And they have the same exact interaction they had yesterday or this same day, just from Mr. Collins' side right now. Remember when he was too stunned to say anything? Yeah, they're having that same moment right now. We already know how that goes. He doesn't really do much during that whole thing. He goes on about his day for a little bit, and then we're there when he gets attacked by the guy with fire poker, Gregory Golden, who I did not get a picture of. There's too many people! Boom, 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 boom. Welcome. I honestly think the people who I forget about and then get honored with a stick figure drawing should feel really appreciated by me because I take the time to actually make art of them. With the rest of them, I'm just printing out random pictures and I'm putting no effort in there. So, if I draw your character as a stick figure, say thank you. Thank you. Let me go back over here. Mr. Collins passes out after this, and we skip to our day 3 host. That doesn't make sense to y'all right now, but I'm gonna explain it a bit. Well, it already does because the title is the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hugo, so I figure you know how this kind of works, but we're gonna get more information on that in a second, okay? Oh, shoot. Our day 3 host over here is having a whole conversation with a guy in a plague doctor mask because why wouldn't you? And we're getting some more plot, some reasoning on why he's here. Well, not really reasoning, we're just getting explain the rules of the game 80 pages into the book. So, day 3, we go over here to Mr. Davis. Don't pay attention to the fact that I didn't print a picture for him. He could still be really important, you never know. It is important to note that all our hosts remember the previous day or the previous person they were as well, but he's still not really remembering who he was before all this started happening, before he started just taking over other people's bodies. But now we get into the plague doctor actually explaining everything to him, how he's going to wake up in a new host every day for the next 8 days, and the only way to stop this from continuing is to solve a murder that won't actually look like a murder. Now, all of us, the audience, we know who gets murdered. It's in the title of the book. But Aiden still doesn't know who actually is going to die because he fell asleep before that happened last night as Sebastian Bell. Once he knows who the murderer is, he's supposed to go to the lake where Thomas died. I'm kind of thinking Crowman might be Thomas, but we'll get into that more at some point when I have a little more proof. Right now, it's just a theory, okay? But anyways, he's supposed to go to the lake with proof and the name of the person who killed Evelyn, or the random person. And the thing is, even if he doesn't solve it in these 8 days, what ends up happening is his memory gets wiped and he just starts the cycle all over again. So no matter what, he's just gonna be stuck here, unless he can figure out who the murderer is. At this point, Aiden is full-on panicking and he just knows he needs to get out of here. So once the plague doctor leaves him alone, he runs straight to the stable master and he's like, yo, I gotta leave, now, it's an emergency. And the stable master explains that there's a big thunderstorm right now, so all the horses are gonna be too scared, but he can take the car. Now it's the 1920s, so Aiden doesn't know how to drive a car, but it's also the 1920s, so you don't need a license and cars aren't that complicated. So he's like, here's how you do it, bye. And Aiden goes driving down that road. He is out of here. He wants to escape this way and not be stuck here for another 5 days. After a while of just driving down this random road trying to get to a main town, he runs into, you guessed it, the plague doctor mask guy again. He just starts lecturing him on not accomplishing anything with such a valuable host, and slips in this little thing about his rivals getting ahead of him on the investigation right now. He gets even more confused because what do you mean rivals? There's other people that are also in random people's body that are guests of this ball party thing, and I'm just now finding out about this and I'm competing against them? And yes, that's exactly the case. There's actually 2 other people that are trapped here right now competing against him, and whoever finds out who the murderer is first is the only one that gets out of here. He doesn't know how to process all of this or whether or not he's insane at this moment, so he just keeps on driving, hoping that maybe all of this is a horrible, horrible hallucination of some sort. Also, I should mention at this point, Aiden doesn't actually really know his name at this point. It's just easier to refer to him as Aiden than all his other characters sometimes, because it just clears things up a little bit, I feel like, and makes it a little less confusing. And like, we already know his actual name because it's on the back of the book, so it's not like I'm really telling you any information we don't already know, you know? And also, I'm the one making this video, so it's my choice. After Davis over here spends all day running away, he eventually passes out, and now we wake up in the body of our host for day 4. And that is the one and only Lord Ravencourt. Okay, so Davis over here, day 3. You over here, sir, are sorry, excuse me. Day 2. And you, day 4. Hope that clears everything up for you. Wait, I have a different colored marker. Day 1, 3, 2, 4. Does that help? Now, Ravencourt is a very large man, and that is the first thing Aiden notices. He's so large, in fact, he actually has to get helped out by his valet constantly to just do basic tasks like getting in and out of a bathtub. After he gets over the embarrassment of needing the valet's help all the time, he starts to kind of slip into the character of Lord Ravencourt to try to learn some more stuff today. He does go ahead, have his valet cancel all his meetings except for the one he has with a one Helena Hardcastle, which is Lady Hardcastle, because he figures she might have some information since, you know, she's the one throwing this whole big bash. Now that Aiden actually kind of understands what's going on and understands he's wasted his previous 3 days with Sebastian Bell, Collins, and Dr. Davis, not Dr. Davis, this is gonna get so confusing. Anyways, he knows he's wasted all that time, so he really has to get some stuff done today. He knows this, so he heads directly towards the library because he's got a little plan. Now, I have no clue if this is going to be important, but I'm going to mention it just in case, okay? The little valet over here, he has this weird green smear that kind of looks like it may be a tattoo that Lord Ravencourt sees as they're getting ready to go to the library, but he doesn't mention anything of it, just something to note. This is our valet. His name is Cunningham. He's great. Green cat? Question mark? Once they arrive to the library, he has his valet write a note for him because he's so large that it's clear he's not going to be able to write well. This is what the book is saying, okay? And basically all this note is an invitation for his rivals or his other selves on later days, because they'll know about this note since he's the one putting it here, to write down the information they know or meet him here if they feel safe enough to do so they can work together to try and solve this mystery and get out. After the note is written, he has his valet put it in the Encyclopedia of Britannica. Yep. His valet is, yes, very confused, but he does it because Lord Ravencourt apparently pays the good bucks. And at this time, Ravencourt is pretty exhausted from his walk over to the library and takes a little snooze, which shoots us right back into the body of Mr. Collins, who is in pure agony because he was just beaten with a freaking fire poker. He can't really open his eyes, but he does hear a woman talking to him. She clearly knows the situation that he's in and is also in a similar one, explaining that he only gets 1 full day as each host, and it starts as the moment they wake up till 12 o'clock that night. As of now, because of the situation the butler is in, if he falls asleep as any of those hosts, he will be transported back to the butler for a little bit until the butler falls asleep again. And then at that point, he will go back to the other host if they are still alive or if it's not past midnight and they're still in play to adventure with. Then Mr. Collins, the butler, passes out again and we are back with Lord Ravencourt. And he is now talking to Daniel, who is actually Aiden on day 8, on the final day, so he has the most information. Now, yes, I did say I think he may be a suspect, and that's been proven wrong. In fact, it has. Look, I just didn't know much at the time. So, we've got another dot connected at this point. This is day 8. So all we're missing is 5 6 and 7. Not too much more information to fill in, right? And we only have to learn everything that Daniel's going through. Sure. Actually, are we gonna get there? Because it's only the 7.5. So yeah, we'll get there. Never mind. Don't listen to me. For now, I'm just going to refer to Daniel as Daniel to complicate this as little as possible. So when I mention Aiden, I am talking about the Aiden we are in the point of view of right now. So at this point, Aiden would be Ravencourt. Okay? Got it? Got it? Cool. Great. Now Daniel has some pretty important information for us, okay? Because he is day 8 Aiden. The first thing he brings up is the person that's going to get murdered, because remember, Aiden doesn't know that currently, and he's like, it's gonna be Evelyn, and he's like, oh no, I actually liked Evelyn. She was really sweet to me on my first day on this planet as this weird game thing that's happening. Then Daniel advises him to go and find Anne immediately, because he's gonna need all the help he can get. It seems like Daniel has some sort of plan, but maybe not. It's hard to tell. Daniel isn't telling us a lot. Now he starts going over how the Plague Doctor knows a lot about them and a lot about all of their hosts, so he knows how to go after their weaknesses and also knows where they're going to be at throughout the entire day, so he's not going to get surprised by them. And even more exposition now, Evie apparently dies at 11 p.m. every night on the dot, explaining to Lord Ravencourt that he needs that to happen again tonight and for him to not interfere. And then finally ending this conversation, he's like, look, avoid the footmen, we cannot be seen talking together, that's not gonna be great, and never be in a room by yourself because then he can get you and that's bad. Because the footman's just gonna kill them if he finds them, ending their day early, meaning they can't get enough information. And at this moment, Ravencourt's valet, Cunningham, comes back in the room and he's like, I got a note saying you wanted me, and Daniel explains that that was him because this is Daniel's cue to leave, and a good excuse to leave, and Ravencourt can't fight him now that Daniel's here. Or like fight him verbally on this, not that Ravencourt was gonna hop up out of his chair and be like, ah. After he's gone, Lord Ravencourt asks his valet to get him a pen and quill, then writes a note, hands it back to his valet, says for him to go into the drawing room, observe what's going on in there, and then afterwards, open the note and read it. And then at that point, come back to this room. He knows this is gonna take a bit, so after Cunningham leaves, he goes over to where Evie is going to be at this point in the day to try to talk to her. But when he gets there to play chess with her, it's clear that Evie does not like Lord Ravencourt and is very cold to him. They don't end up talking at all. He ends up having to play her in chess to try to get a chance to have a conversation with her. And that's only if he wins. Eventually, he knows he's going to lose here pretty soon, so he just blurts out that she's in danger because he really wants to keep her safe. He cares about her. But she just responds saying, I thought we had a deal, Lord Ravencourt, and he doesn't understand that response though. Does this mean she knows about her death or is something else going on? And then of course Sebastian Bell arrives, he ends up losing the chess match. And at the very end of it, when Sebastian is about to take his seat, he thinks about flipping the chessboard over to change the course of events today, but decides not to, because he doesn't think this is the best opportunity to do so, but he does want to keep an eye out for ways to do that later. Now cut back over to the library where Ravencourt is now talking to Cunningham about the letter. And in that letter, he just wrote the exact events that were going to happen in that drawing room during that time. So he could get Cunningham to understand that something strange is going on here and also get him to believe him when he says he is not Lord Ravencourt right now and he doesn't know what's really going on, but he needs help. Cunningham at first is like, I'm absolutely not helping you. I will resume my job when Lord Ravencourt is back in his body, but I'm leaving as of today. I'm taking the day off. This is too much. But Ravencourt goes, no, I don't think you will be. Look under your seat. And there's a note under his seat that is blackmail for him. Now, Ravencourt doesn't actually have any blackmail on him right now, but he does know that one of his future selves will have the time to go and find that blackmail, put it under the seat so they can have this turn of events. And just like that, Cunningham willingly, without any outside pressure, agrees to help Ravencourt, or Aiden. So he quickly assigns him a list of 4 things he wants him to do. The first thing is, he needs him to go find that note at the well that Evelyn left there and read it and report back to him what was in it. Secondly, he needs him to find out who is wearing the Plague Doctor's costume. Thirdly, he wants him to talk about Anna constantly, scatter that name around the manor like it's confetti, see if anybody knows anything about her. And fourthly, and finally, he wants him to introduce himself to Sebastian Bell, because he doesn't remember ever meeting Cunningham when he was Bell, and that might change some things up and get him some new answers. Once this is all settled, he goes over to where he will be meeting Helena Hardcastle. On the way over, he has a weird experience with maybe the footman. It's kind of weird, like ghosty vibes of maniacal laughter and footsteps and stuff like that, but nothing actually happens. Once he gets to his meeting spot with Helena Hardcastle, she's not there. He's there a little early, but there is a maid that's just in there crying, and this happens to be Lucy, the one that Ted yelled at earlier. He comforts her and then is like, hey, you know anybody named Anna? Like, random question. I know you're having a hard day, but like, Anna? Now, Lucy doesn't know anything about Anna, but she does mention that a lady named Miss Derby was down in the kitchen a little bit ago asking about an Anna as well. He starts thinking that maybe Miss Derby is involved in this, so he asks for more information on her. Apparently she's an older lady with a really sharp tongue, but then Lucy starts talking about a footman that came in after Miss Derby also asking about Anna. And at this point, Ravencourt's like, oh, yeah, tell me about that guy, please. Apparently this footman has blonde hair, he's tall, he looks pleased with himself, and he has a recently broken nose. They keep talking for a little bit longer, and eventually Lucy, it's just a goldmine of information, gets to a point where she reveals that Evie and her lady's maid Madeline were out in the woods earlier this morning and were apparently attacked by somebody, but they haven't told any of the guests about that. They want to keep that very low-key under wraps. So he's wondering now if the person running in the woods the morning he woke up as Sebastian Bell wasn't Anna. Maybe it was Evie or Madeline. And he's like, hey, Lucy, can you let Madeline know that I would really like to talk to her about this? There's money in it for both of you because apparently I'm rich. And Lucy's like, okay, sure, whatever. She then leaves and another woman comes in the room, but we never see this woman's face because she puts a firm hand on Lord Ravencourt's shoulder and it's like, yo, I'm Anna. Stop looking for me. You're putting me in danger. Because the footman is also searching for her, and basically, he's just helping the footman find her faster at this point. Once he agrees to stop spreading her name around everywhere and stop looking for her, she's like, cool, now that you gave me what I want, I'm gonna give you something that you want. Your name is Aiden Bishop, so he finally knows at least what his name is. Anna then leaves the room, and now it's time for the grand entrance of Miss Derby. Miss Derby instantly goes on ranting about how she told Helena how this party was an awful idea and it was going to be an utter failure, and why doesn't Helena listen to her? She's just an old lady with problems and she wants to rant about them. And then she notices a little note on the fireplace, goes over, picks that up, and it just says, meet Millicent Derby. And it's pretty obvious to him that this is Anna's doing. He decides to take a chance here and ask Miss Derby why she was in the kitchens earlier. And she's like, oh, I thought one of them may have stole something from me, and quickly redirects the conversation onto her husband that she hated, but that husband is dead now, I guess. And she's not unhappy about it. She didn't like that guy. And then starts spilling all the tea on the drama between Helena and Peter and how their marriage has been falling apart for years. And it's pretty obvious now because Peter is staying in the gatehouse and Helena is staying in the main house with everybody else. This conversation is interrupted when they hear this odd creaking noise, so they go to investigate it, and they find that Helena's door is being blown open by the breeze. And it's very clear because of the wood on the ground that the lock was smashed. So obviously whoever came into this room wasn't supposed to be there and they broke in. When they go in, they find that 2 revolvers has been stolen, as well as the itinerary for today from her day planner. For some reason, Miss Derby over here is just like, oh, I guess guns and day planners get stolen all the time. This is probably her doing, honestly. The crazy lady. Ravencourt finds this a little more interesting because, we see Evie with one of these revolvers later, and also he noticed these black smudges on the day planner, and they look oddly similar to the black smudges that were on the hands of his valet earlier. And it was clear the valet had tried to clean these smudges off of his hand, but he was not successful in doing so. So now he really wants to go talk to his valet again. Now cut back to the library where he told his valet to meet him once his tasks were done. The valet isn't there yet, so he takes this time to go and check the encyclopedia, only to find the encyclopedia in the burning fireplace. It's clear that this is the footman or the plague doctor's doing. Either one is not great for him. They just want him to know that they already know the move he's going to make, and they will do anything to stop him. Finally, Cunningham arrives, and he's like, hey, look, I found a plague doctor mask belonging to a one Philip Sutcliffe. And there was also a note in his room from Lord Hardcastle asking him to meet him at the ball. That's all very interesting, but he also found the note on the well to Evie, and it simply said, stay away from Millicent Derby, and then had a simple castle drawn on it. It's clear that Aiden really isn't too concerned about Millicent Derby, like she's just an old woman, he's not too worried about it, but Cunningham advises him to be careful of her. Because Lord Ravencourt may not be a nice man when he's actually Lord Ravencourt, but he's no fool either, and he doesn't trust her. Unfortunately, that's where the good news stops, though, because he wasn't able to find Anna, which is good, and Lord Ravencourt's like, hey, actually stop that. But he also wasn't able to talk to Sebastian Bell, so he didn't interrupt the cycle that Bell is currently going through. Ravencourt now wants to go into phase 2 of his plan, which is to have Cunningham shadow Evie for the rest of the night to try to avoid Evie from getting murdered and also just finding out who kills her. But Cunningham's like, whoa, 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 you don't know that I'm not the murderer, so how about I stay with you so you can rule me out? I'm not gonna get blamed for a girl's murder. I've got too much going on in my life. I don't need that right now. And he's like, you know what? That's a good point. We're gonna work on this together. But I do want to know what you were doing in Helena Hardcastle's room. Aiden isn't really fazed by this, though, and he goes, oh, it's strange you don't know the scandalous relationship you have with the Hardcastles. Ravencourt is asking him to explain what he means, but he goes, no, I think it'd be more fun if you find that out on your own. And then just goes on to assure him that he doesn't know what happened to the guns, and the itinerary was fully intact when he was there earlier. After going over everything, Aiden asks him why a man like him settled for a job like this. At this, Cunningham's expression darkens a little bit, and I may be using that a lot because it's pretty common throughout books, but I feel like it's being overdone in this book. I'm gonna be so honest, it's my one critique so far. I probably have more, I'm just trying really hard to solve this mystery, but so many faces are darkening. But he just says, life doesn't always leave you a choice on how you live it. Okay, I don't know how to transition, so mealtime, woo, we're at the evening meal now, and he is sitting right next to a one Michael Hardcastle and also a one Commander Clifford Harrington. You want to know why I can remember that name? Because I think of Steve Harrington, is that right? And then I also think of Michael Clifford. And I find that funny that those two names are right next to each other. Now, Clifford Harrington over here is boring poor Ravencourt to death with his conversation. Michael isn't speaking to him at all. He's just having a hushed conversation with Evie. But we do notice that Daniel across the way has a split lip and a swollen eye, which is not a good sign for Aiden because he will be that Daniel in a few days. Finally, Michael over here turns to Lord Ravencourt and he's like, yo, is the food satisfactory to you? Ravencourt doesn't really care about the food, but he does know he has the attention of Michael as well as this Harrington Clifford guy. So he's gonna use this opportunity to see if they might know a Philip Sutcliffe because he was hoping he would be here tonight. Harrington jumps in at this point and he's like, oh, I'm good friends with him. I can introduce him to you at the ball tonight, hopefully. Those three continue to talk for a little bit until Michael is interrupted by a waiter whispering in his ear. All of a sudden, his facial expressions darken. He gets real serious, and then he starts to make a toast. He starts this by explaining that he was hoping his parents would be here to announce this and make this toast. He thanks them on behalf of his father for attending this ball and attending the celebration of his sister finally returning from Paris after all these years, and then goes on about how she'll soon be embarking on a new journey in life by marrying a one Lord Ravencourt. That's right, Lord Ravencourt and Evie are apparently betrothed, engaged. Uh-oh. And Evie clearly doesn't like this. Aiden in Ravencourt's body is appalled by this because he knows he is a much older man, probably 30 years older. In the book it goes, there are many meals and 30 years in between the two. I have not heard a character described like this since I read the Harry Potter books and they were describing the Dursleys, okay? This is... It's so in your face, and they will not let you forget for a single second. Of course, Michael is acting happy in front of the crowd, but it's clear he's not happy about this. And then he invites Evie to stand up and say a few words. She does, but she just has the look in her eyes of a wild animal, and then runs out the room sobbing. And at this moment, Daniel just winks at him. Great. Thanks for that, Daniel. Couldn't warn us earlier? No? Okay. Useless. Once he gets back with Cunningham, he's like, yo, you didn't think to mention that I was engaged to Evie? That would have been helpful to know. And he's like, I did think about it, but you blackmailed me, so I wanted to embarrass you. And he gets a good laugh out of this and is like, you know what? Fair enough. Cunningham goes on to explain the situation a little more, but it's pretty obvious that they're getting married for money because Mr. Hardcastle has been, I have their names mixed up. Iconic. Anyways, Mr. Hardcastle has not been financially responsible and is on the brink of bankruptcy, apparently. So they desperately need some money, and this was the way to get it. There's not much more information he can get out of this that would be useful, so he goes ahead and turns the conversation onto the matter of talking to Sebastian Bell, but it turns out when Cunningham found Sebastian Bell was already passed out from the box and the rabbit situation. They then go down to the ball, and Lord Ravencourt is not meant to do a lot of adventuring, so he finds a nice seat to just observe everybody from. It is very clear that he's nervous and there's drinks going around, so Cunningham decides to get up and go and get a bottle to try and calm Lord Ravencourt's nerves, or Aiden's nerves. And just a few moments after Cunningham leaves, Ravencourt notices somebody in a plague doctor mask, so he gets up to start going after them because he wants more answers from this guy. And as he's walking after this man, somebody runs into him that is also wearing a plague doctor's mask. And then more and more people just appear that are all wearing plague doctor's masks. Like, there's a little group of them here. It's an army of plague doctors, which is terrifying any day, especially when one is keeping you here and it's clear he's some sort of ghost figure. Anyways, this guy gets annoyed and he's like, who gave these to you? But they don't answer him, so he knocks one of them to the ground and just kind of puts a foot and a cane on him, and he's like, answer me. Where did you get these? Who gave them to you? And they explain that one of the servants found them up in an attic, and because they didn't have any costumes to wear, they decided to use them. Of course, this was a tactic from our plague doctor friend to be able to move around without really being noticed. Because if there's 20 plague doctors, it's not a big deal. One random plague doctor would be a little different. Reminder, this is a masquerade ball, so this is pretty normal behavior. As this conversation is wrapping up, he sees Michael heading straight towards him, looking very concerned, and when he gets there, he asks, have you seen my sister? The answer is, of course, no. He's looking pretty panicked. Cunningham gets over there and he's like, I saw a plague doctor, but it wasn't the guy. And we all know the whole situation that's going on there already. And as they're catching up, Michael is climbing the stairs to the mezzanine and has the music stop and makes an announcement asking if anybody has seen his sister. Nobody has. Cunningham is actually the first one to spot her as she's doing a very drunkenly weavy walk around the pool with a pistol in her hand. He tells Cunningham to go get Michael because he sees the clock is 11 o'clock right now, and then at that moment, he turns back, looks at Evie, and sees her shoot herself in the stomach. Let me remind you right now, our plague doctor friend said that this was going to be a murder that didn't seem like a murder. But she just shot herself. Speaking of our plague doctor friend, he is actually standing in the tree line right there and just takes his bow like this is his grand finale to this show. Everybody, of course, rushes over there. Dr. Dickey is over there trying to see if he can save her, but it's clear she's already dead. And at that point, Michael just pulls her towards him, sobbing. Rumors start instantly going around for all the party guests about police coming here, about how this manor must be cursed because another Hardcastle child died here. Some people are saying there was a suicide note found. Ravencourt knows that most of these conversations are probably not true, and he's just trying to pick apart the parts that are in every story, trying to put those facts together to get some sort of clue on why this happened and who did this. He starts to find a place to sit down again, looking around for Cunningham, but Cunningham is nowhere to be seen. He sits down, starts thinking over how this could possibly be a murder, because he just saw her shoot herself in the stomach, like I've said multiple times. But then he starts thinking a little more about the details, and she was holding a small silver pistol, not a revolver that she had earlier when she met up with him as Sebastian Bell. Also, when she was with Sebastian Bell, she was not acting anything like this. But in the time we have left with Ravencourt, the police never show up. The crowd slowly starts thinning out, and the last thing he remembers seeing is, again, Michael just sobbing over his dead sister's body. But Michael, could that be guilt? We don't have time to figure that out right now because Lord Ravencourt falls asleep again and we are back with the butler, Mr. Collins. He is now in the room where he first met the butler and the maid, and Anna is actually the one who is the maid in this room, so they have a little time to talk finally. She instantly wants to know when Lord Ravencourt is going to be alone though, so she can tell him to stop looking for her. Because we've already been over this, the footman is also looking for her and he needs her to stop, and she needs him to stop. But he's still kind of just slowly coming to and starts to realize he remembers Anna in some way. Like, he just remembers that they had a close connection, that they were good friends. She also has the same feelings about Aiden, and they start crying together, but then they pull themselves back together and they're like, look, we gotta solve this. We find out in this time that she actually doesn't have any other host. She's not getting any extra visits from the plague doctor or anything like that. She just wakes up knowing the knowledge that she needs to know. This all makes it pretty clear to her that the Crow Doctor guy actually wants Aiden to be the one to win this to win this competition, because he's getting all the extra help. He's getting visited by this guy. He's getting hints, I guess, according to her. This is only day 2 him, but he's technically been through like day 4 him, but day 4 him was really the first day, to be fair. So he's still got some time to make that plan, you know? But at this point, they hear a noise out in the door and she loads up a shotgun ready to fight someone if it's the footman, but luckily it's not. It's just Dr. Dickey, who's hiding back here. So with the few moments they have left together, she tells him very quickly that he needs to not talk to her in any other host form. This is the only area where they should be talking, so they have a better chance of avoiding the footman, because that man is very scary. Then Mr. Hardcastle and Dr. Dickey come into the room, and Dr. Dickey may know a little more than he's letting on right now, because as he gets closer to Mr. Collins says, "I'm fine, doctor, honestly." And Dr. Dickey goes, "Yes, that's rather my concern," then injects him with the sedative to let his body rest and heal, and says, "Roger, I'll deal with Mr. Gold." Yeah, so I don't really know what's going on, but I do know that I have a lot more book to read, and we've also ruled out some key characters, I feel like, with ruling out Daniel and Ravencourt, and of course Sebby Bell, Mr. Collins, the butler, and Davis over here, who just ran away and was useless to us. And if I just don't like Michael. Something about his vibes and the way they're presenting him in this book is too nice and too close of Evie, and it feels wrong. There's something wrong about him, and I'm really, really suspicious. If I had to guess and bet all my money, I would do it. I would bet on him being the killer, but I wouldn't bet all my money because I'm still really unsure about what's going on. Cunningham is also a little weird, like he disappeared right around the time of her dying, but it feels like there needs to be more setup before that happens. And I mean, can we really rule out Anna even? I feel like we can, yeah? I hope so. Or what if it was just the Plague Doctor? Because I feel like the Plague Doctor is just Charlie Carver or Thomas coming back to haunt all of them. And there's so much going on. So much. We're gonna freaking do this. I'm gonna win, okay? I'm going to figure this out before Aiden does. If it's the last thing I do. If you have any suspicions right now, let me know in the comments below. Like, timestamp this. I wanna know your guesses along with mine. Please, please do that. Because I'm gonna feel a little less stupid if other people also aren't catching on. Because I'm doing my best to give you all the facts from the book and not just my own opinions. Okay, I really need to figure this out for my sanity. If you want to know about our next POV guy, this sentence sums it up. He hadn't made the connection to his mom, blah, 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 probably because it's easier to imagine him being delivered onto this earth by a biblical plague. And that's not an exaggeration. I can't talk. I'll reach my word count. What? We're back, doing the hard work. That needs to be done. I'm at the most dangerous part of any mystery book where I'm kind of getting dead set on one of the suspects, and I don't know if they're even supposed to be a suspect, but to me they are. Because how this book has been so far, we met so few people in the beginning, and half the people we met in the beginning are either way too violent to be taken seriously because it would be too obvious that it's them, or they're literally one of him in one of the different days, and they can't be the murderer. So that just leaves me Michael, basically. So I think her brother killed her, but we're gonna keep going over this, but I wanna say right now, I am confident that it's this man. I'm fairly confident. I don't know why, but I know he did it. This is great detective work. Me going to a judge being like, guys, look, I don't know why he did it, but something in my gut telling me he did it, so you gotta believe me. Now, before we even really get into day 5, let me just tell you that today's host is a awful human, literally a monster, scum of the earth. I hate his guts so much. The book doesn't lightly touch on any of these subjects. It's like, oh, yo, here's what's happening. And I'm like, ah! But I'm gonna lightly touch on them, so if you think you're gonna be okay with just like mentions of stuff, go ahead, stay here, but if you do want to go ahead, just skip past this part. I'm going to put a time code here for you to skip to where you don't have to deal with this, but be warned, I feel like since this has been brought up now, there could be other mentions of it later in the video. So if that's just too much for you, please do what you need to do for your mental health, okay? But now that that's out of the way, let's talk about our day 5 host, Jonathan, or the scum of the earth. I hate him so much. Aiden wakes up in Jonathan's body, knowing that Evelyn and her maid are in the forest and they're about to be chased by a strange man, so he wants to go out there to help them to try to stop this man from chasing them. Now our host is a one, Jonathan Darby. It's very clear, it's pretty clear that he enjoys the wares of Sebastian Bell, who is a drug dealer if you forgot. And just a brief reminder on how he knows that Evelyn and her maid are going to be running through the woods is from the maid Lucy, who was crying in the parlor room the other day that he was going to meet Helena Hardcastle in the body of Ravencourt. And he got that info, that something had happened in the woods and they weren't doing too well, but they didn't want anybody to know about it, but now he knows about it, so he's gonna try to act on that. The only problem is he doesn't actually know where they're going to be. Well, he knows where they're going to be. He just doesn't know how to get to that place. And that place is Charlie Carver's cabin. That's out in the woods somewhere. So he goes down to the kitchens to ask Miss Drudge about this. And Miss Drudge does not like Jonathan for a very fair reason. And he's like, look, I just want to help Madeline and Evelyn, okay? That's all I want to do. And she's like, oh, is that what you were doing last night when you tore her blouse? Talking about Madeline the maid over here. Like I said, scum of the earth, human being. Now the host, Jonathan, gets really defensive over this and gets very angry that Mrs. Drudge is not telling him the information that he wants to get. So he kind of takes over Aiden's control and slaps Mrs. Drudge in the face. Aiden gets control back after this and runs out of that room because he's like, oh my gosh, the host can fight back and that's not a good thing, especially with this guy. He decides he shouldn't talk to anybody in the house now and just heads out into the woods hoping he stumbles upon this cabin. And what do you know, after many hours of walking, or quite a while of walking, he finds the cabin. He stops there for a second to tie his shoe, and when Madeline sees him, her eyes fill with pure terror and she goes running, screaming, help me. You get it now? Because all of a sudden, Aiden goes running after her, saying that he's there to help. And so we're just replaying the first scene we wake up with the start of the book because we hear Sebastian Bell scream Anna in the distance, and then Madeline trips, he trips as well, and then Evelyn appears and she has a gun, fires a shot, not at him, but a warning shot, and she tells him to leave them both alone or there will not be another warning shot. So they leave, he stays there, and then the plague doctor shows up because, fun fact, when Aiden was heading into the woods, he actually found Sebastian Bell's coat and picked up the compass and a key from that coat thinking he could use them today. But the plague doctor's like, hey, you gotta give them to Bell or he's gonna be lost and confused. And at first Aiden's like, no, I'm not doing that. I want to change some part of this day. But the plague doctor's like, yo, if you don't do this, then you kind of mess up your relationship you have with Evie and you don't care about her in the next cycle. And that's not going to be a good thing for Evie because you're not actually going to try to save her. You're just going to try to solve the murder, which is kind of what you should be doing anyways. But like, you want to care about her, so you have to give him this compass. So even though he really, really wants to change something and doesn't want the cycle to just continue the exact same over and over and over again, he decides to go with the plan and give it to Sebastian Bell. They end up talking a little more and we get some very interesting information that Aiden Bishop, unlike the other people he's competing against, actually came here voluntarily. He wanted to be here, apparently. Now, the plague doctor has no clue why, he just knows that it was voluntary, and that's cool. Our plague doctor friend leaves now, leaving one Aiden Bishop to go talk to another Aiden Bishop in the body of Sebastian Bell and give him the compass. Now, yes, he has an opportunity to talk to him here, but remember, Sebastian Bell is a very cowardly man. He's really scared in this moment and he doesn't remember anything but Anna's name currently. So trying to explain what's going on to him is going to be like trying to calm down a scared rabbit. They're just gonna run away faster. So he just goes over, puts the compass in his pocket and whispers east and then heads back to the house himself, running into Miss Darby. Where is she? Miss Darby when he gets back. He calls her by her first name and Miss Darby's like, yo, what? I'm your mother. And he's like, oh yeah, shoot, she is my mother because he is a Jonathan Darby. She's outside right now waiting for Helena because they were supposed to go on their walk this morning, but now she's wondering if Helena just went to go have her meeting with Hardcastle or just go have her meeting with Ravencourt before going on the walk with her, and she knows she needs to head back inside, but Helena's just been a mess recently. Jonathan over here can confirm that Helena is not currently meeting with Ravencourt because Ravencourt is still asleep. She's wondering how he knows that, and he explains he talked to Cunningham, and not that he was in Ravencourt's body the other day, but not like that. This gets Miss Darby, a woman that loves gossip, spilling all the tea on Cunningham over here. And it turns out Cunningham is apparently an illegitimate child. Is that the right saying? Anyways, he is apparently a fair child of Mr. Hardcastle's. So, what ended up happening was the mistress came to Blackheath Manor presenting the child, and he knows it's his. Miss Hardcastle also knows that Cunningham was his child and had the child grow up here being raised by the cook as a constant reminder to him of his mistake, which is kind of a badass move by her. I love that. If you can't divorce your husband, at least be like, hey, look at that stupid thing you did. For the sake of the child, probably not the best thing you could have done, but it was kind of funny. But also, Lord Ravencourt has recently discovered, something unsavory about the boy, and it wasn't about his parentage. Now, all this information we just went over is very well known to a lot of people, so there's no doubt that Cunningham knows who his actual parents are. So does this give him motive to want to kill his half-sister? Maybe? I don't know. The only reason I don't fully suspect him is we met him a little too late. Like, we were a little too far into the book once we met him. I feel like you have to meet the killer in the first, 50 to 60 pages. They have to be in there, and I feel like that's how it normally goes, but what if I'm wrong, and what if this is a red herring? I don't know what's going on. Mother and son over here continue to talk a little more until Daniel shows up and he's like, hey, I want to talk to Jonathan alone, please. And Miss Darby is like, okay, bye-bye. Daniel is here because he has a plan to catch the footmen. See, they know that the footmen torments Lord Ravencourt around 1 p.m. today, and there's these secret priest tunnels that are secret and fun that the footman is definitely using to cause this torment, and there's only 3 entrances to them. So if he gets a couple more of himself to help him out and Anna, then they can probably catch the footman and deal with him today. And of course he's invited, but he also wants him to be the one to talk to Anna about this today. And this gives Aiden an opportunity to ask later Aiden if he actually knows if there's a way to get both of them out of here. And he's like, look, I'm not 100% sure. It could have been a potential lie to her, but here's hoping that I can find a way. And when asked how much hope he has, he says, not much, but hey, don't tell her, because if you do, you're going to make an enemy out of her. And that's way worse than having to lose her trust at some point or leaving her stuck here. So, sorry. Daniel leaves and Jonathan goes back to talking to his mother, who is talking about the summer she spent here as a girl. Ravencourt was here. Of course, the Hardcastles were here. And then she brought her kids here all the time growing up. This was a very interconnected family. So what if one of his siblings was involved in this? You never know. And I really don't think their family's involved in this in any way. But anyways, they keep on walking and eventually they come upon the reflecting pool, which is where Evelyn died last night and will once again die tonight. They can see the ballroom where the party is currently being set up for the evening by all the servants and maids and everybody like that. And he is just looking in, trying to observe, see if he notices anything different. And his mother is like, no, I'm not gonna rescue you if you screw up again. Meaning if you, force yourself unwillingly on someone else. No, I know he's meant to, but it pisses me off so much. Okay. I also have a migraine right now. Just today is filled with rage. But then his mother at this point ends up running off, and when he turns back to the window, he sees a little chess piece sitting there for him that has written on it, behind you. When he turns around to the forest, he sees Anna standing there. Now, yes, Anna, the last time we saw her was like, hey, we can only meet in this room and talk. But remember, she restarts every day as the same person over and over and over again, so she hasn't had that conversation with Ravencourt yet, so they're having convo now. He fills her in on the plan that Daniel has, and she's like, no, that's a really stupid idea. The footman already knows what we know, so he's probably set this up as a trap for us and is just going to end up killing one version of you at least. So we're not gonna do that. And he's like, okay, fair point. Then she gets to the reason she brought him over here. She wants him to be standing here when Evelyn Hardcastle dies tonight, right where she puts this rock. She doesn't want him to move a single inch because apparently this is really important to the plan that's going on that he doesn't know much about. He agrees to all this, then Anna hands him some headache pills. He's asking, why do you trust me? And she explains it's because of the chess piece. It was something he gave to her, and that was the first time she ever decided to trust him and thought she may have a way out of this nightmare. I feel like I should also mention right now, Anna has a little book where she writes a whole bunch of notes in about what everybody is doing throughout the day, and I don't know if that carries over from day to day, but that would definitely change her character in a lot of ways if she had way more information than she was letting on, but I'm not sure about that. That's just speculation on my end. All I know is she has a book that she writes a bunch of information down in. But his meeting with Anna is officially over now, so he decides to head over to Helena Hardcastle's room to see if he can figure out who breaks in. And when he gets there, nobody's broken in yet, so that's a good sign. He decides he wants to wait this out, pull out like a little steakhouse, catch the thief, all that good stuff. But unfortunately, Jonathan over here, like the actual Jonathan, has no patience, hates waiting around. So to satisfy his host, he has to go ahead and just go to breakfast, get some food, and he's hoping he can bring that back and continue the stakeout that way. But once he gets a plate of food, this big burly fellow comes over to him and he's like, hey, Mr. Stanwin wants to talk with you. Ted over here. I'm just gonna call him Ted for the rest of the time. And it's very clear that this is not an optional meeting with Ted. He can either go by choice or be taken there by this big burly dude that could just pick him up. So he follows this random man to this old decrepit nursery and he's told to wait there and Ted will come see him in a minute. Then he hears Evelyn shriek and he wants to go check on her, but knows he's not going to be able to get around this man. He still tries because Jonathan's an idiot, but that obviously doesn't work. So he goes back into the nursery, tears some of the wallpaper down because he figured out that the room they're talking is right next to his and listens through the wall. The first thing he hears is Ted over here telling Evelyn to not play any games with him, or it will be the end of both of them. And then she's countering back that she doesn't want to run his errands, but it's revealed that he will be holding a letter ransom from her and won't be giving it back until stuff is done. And he may have some other stuff on him. It's very clear that Ted is a very well-versed blackmailer. The only thing that's really important about this conversation to us right now is that Jonathan knows he needs to get that letter because that letter is important to Evelyn, so it may be important to finding her murderer. And he's hopeful for a second that maybe this letter will be easy to get from Ted and maybe they're like best buddies, but then Ted says some stuff about Jonathan and this is very clear they are not best buddies. And finally, Ted makes it into the room that Jonathan is in, and this whole little meeting is about his mother being late on some payments due to Ted Stanwin right now. He then threatens his mother that if the payments aren't done soon, she may not still be in good health. Jonathan, having many problems, one of them being anger issues, just rushes towards Stanwin, but then Ted just grabs Jonathan's throat, chokes him right there, says, hey, buddy, she's gotta pay me and you need to get this message to her or it's with your mom. And then drops him on the ground. Because it seems like they've reached an understanding. Ted leaves and then the big burly fellow walks in and it's clear that, Ted wants to put a little more of an exclamation point on this, meeting of theirs, shall we say. And, big burly man is about to beat Jonathan up, which would just be wonderful to watch. But Jonathan does have some smarts, and we do need Aiden inside of Jonathan to stay awake so he can get through the day, find out more information, and get himself out of here. So he ends up throwing a chessboard right at the big burly man. It luckily hits him square in the head, making him pretty confused for a little bit, giving Jonathan time to run out of there and find a hiding spot for everything to calm down a little. While he's hiding, he sees Ted talking to Dr. Dickey, and it's clear that he's going to have Dr. Dickey check on the big burly man, since, you know, he probably has a concussion or something now. Once Ted leaves the area, Jonathan sneaks up into Dr. Dickey's room so he can talk to him, and Dr. Dickey's like, yo, what are you doing here? And he's like, hey, I need time to warn my mom about Ted wanting money from her, like right now, and she's in danger. Can you sedate the big burly guy for me? And Dr. Dickey clearly has a soft spot for his mom, whether it's romance or just a good friendship, I don't know, but there is one there. So he agrees to this and then just advises Jonathan to get as far away from here as possible and never see Ted again. Maybe even move to Argentina. That might be his best bet. But Aiden doesn't care about keeping this host alive. He knows he's an awful human being. He's just gonna try to get through this day and get more info, okay? So, once Dr. Dickey comes back confirming that the big burly man has passed out and there's nobody else in that room, he sneaks off up into that room to try to find that letter, hoping it's still in there. At first he has no luck, but then he notices the fire is burning low, and that's kind of weird because it's a pretty chilly day here. You would normally have the fire up and roaring at this point to keep the room warm. So he checks in the chimney and he finds a ledger and the letter that Evelyn wanted to get her hands on in there. He pockets the ledger and reads the letter right now. And it says, "Dearest Evelyn, Mr. Stanwin has informed me of your plight and I can quite understand your concern. Your mother's behavior is certainly alarming, and you're quite right to be on guard against whatever scheme she's cooking up. I stand ready to help unravel this plot, but I am afraid Mr. Stanwood will not be enough. I require some proof of your agency in these matters. I've often seen you wearing a signet ring, a small castle engraved on its inglaze. Send me this and I'll know of your serious intent. Warmest regards, Felicity Maddox." So, about 200 pages into the book, no character just dropped. I don't know how important she's gonna be yet, so she doesn't get a picture, because really that's the first we've heard of her and the only time we hear about her in this day 5 shenanigans. After he's done reading that letter, he gets knocked out by somebody, so now we get to go hang out with the butler, which is a warm welcome reprieve from this guy. Anna's not in the room with our butler, though. It happens to be the plague doctor this time. Woo! He's not too happy to see the plague doctor, but they gotta talk about some stuff. He ends up fuming to him about this whole predicament he's in, with all these useless hosts he's had. One is cowardly, one can think but can't move that well, and one just ended driving away into the night. And also, now he has this guy who can't really do anything because he's so injured. But the plague doctor assures him that all these people are the necessary people for him to be in, or the best people for him to be hosted by, because they are connected to this murder. Now, they cannot be suspects, but they are witnesses. Aiden then asks if there's a way for him to predict which person he's going to be hosted by next, and the plague doctor explains that normally there would be. Normally he would just be hosted by them in the order they wake up. But they've done this loop many times. They've done this 8-day loop a lot. So he's figured out a better way for Aiden to experience the story to try and solve the murder. It's also revealed the plague doctor isn't able to solve the murder himself. He's just able to watch Aiden attempt to do so. He then asks if he has any more questions for him, and he's like, yeah. Why is Anna here? Because you said I volunteered to be here, but how did she get here? The plague doctor's like, yeah, but any question besides that one, actually? Because I don't want to answer that. So he just asks, is Evelyn's death worth all of this? Basically, the plague doctor's just like, it was an unfair death that never got solved, and I would really like to solve it. So he's just kind of a true crime junkie spirit that puts on this fun little riddle game to solve this murder. He's like, maybe there's other spirits doing this all across the world. Probably not, but like, we could act like there is. I feel like this is a bullcrap reason by him, and he has more of a personal connection to this, but we'll see if I'm right later. Mr. Collins is beginning to fade out because he has more sedative medicine in him. He's falling asleep, and he's trying to get out something, and that something interests the plague doctor enough to throw water in his face to wake him back up so he can get that question out. Explaining that he normally doesn't throw water in his face at this point, but this is a question that he's never asked before, and he would like to actually hear it because he was kind of just mumbling stuff. So he clears his mind and he asks, when I first woke up, you asked me what I remembered. Why is that important? The plague doctor explains that it's important because each time he wakes up from the previous cycle to start a brand new one, he wakes up with a new clue of sorts. Of course, he loses all his other memories, but he keeps one random clue every time. Aiden asks him why he was disappointed by this, and it's because the clue he wakes up with significantly impacts how the cycle is going to go. If he had woken up remembering the footman, he would have chased him down, but he woke up remembering Anna and thought of her as a friend, so instead of seeing her as a rival and somebody to work against, he's now wasting time trying to connect with her. And this brings him to the last question of the day of, can Anna and I both get out of here? The plague doctor simply says no. And right before Mr. Collins falls asleep again because of the sedatives in his system, the plague doctor says, she is going to betray you. And now we get to go back to the monster of a man, Jonathan. He wakes up, his head is pounding, he's in so much pain, and the letter and the ledger he stole from Ted are both gone. The only thing that's left in his pockets are the headache pills that Anna gave him. It's like she knew this was gonna happen. So he takes those and then stumbles his way out of there because he doesn't want to get caught by Ted, and the sleeping giant is in here, and finds his way to Dr. Dickey's room because he's gonna have medical supplies. He's the doctor. Now, Dr. Dickey is not currently in his room, so he has to rummage around and find the medical supplies and treat himself the best he can. But while he's doing that rummaging, he finds another King James Bible, like the one in Sebastian Bell's room, that has random lines that are underlined with red ink. Now, being a Christian, when I first heard this, I was like, are they just talking about like when Jesus talks in the Bible? Because sometimes some Bibles have red ink for those instances. But no, this is like if you were underlining stuff with a random pen, and it's clear to him that this means Sebastian Bell and Dr. Dickey are working together, and this is a sort of code between them. But his head is pounding right now and still bleeding, and there's like shards of a vase in there, so he's got to deal with that. When Dr. Dickey gets back to his room, he is not happy to see Jonathan at all. He told Jonathan to get out of here. And then it gets even worse when he finds out he broke into Ted's room, stole a letter and a ledger from there, and doesn't have them anymore to give them back because Ted over here can ruin basically anybody in this household if they give him a reason to do so. Jonathan tries to apologize, but Dr. Dickey snaps, no, you've made those words cheap, Jonathan, because he said sorry for so many of the things he's done repeatedly, and yet he still does them. And then Dr. Dickey really wins me over here. He says that Jonathan has been a blight in this world ever since he brought him into it. Now, I don't think that's him saying that he's Jonathan's father. I don't think there was an affair there of any sort. I think he was just the doctor that brought him into the world. Then Dr. Dickey pulls out a small silver pistol and just holds it at his side and tells Jonathan to get out of here or he will shoot him. And yes, this is the very same gun that Evelyn will be holding tonight when she shoots herself. Now we cut to a little later that day with Jonathan, and he has the small silver pistol that Dr. Dickey was holding a little bit ago with him. Yeah, he stole it from him. Because he figures if Evelyn can't get that gun, then she can't kill herself in the exact same way. And it's also very clear to Aiden at this point that whatever happens today, he will make sure this day ends with this man dead. Whether he has to do it himself, he doesn't care. He hates this man as much as we all do. And this man will not pay for any of the many crimes he's committed unless Aiden does it for him. He decides to go ahead and skip out on dinner because everybody he wants to talk to seems pretty busy and just goes to where Evelyn's room is and basically does a little stakeout there. But he has figured out that Jonathan likes to smoke, so this keeps him entertained. Luckily for him, he doesn't have to sit still the whole time though, because it's apparently pretty easy to break into her room because Helena's room is already open and Evelyn's room is just connected to her room because it used to be a parlor in the house, or Helena's Hardcastle's parlor, so there's a door connecting them, and it's not locked at all, so once he finds that, he goes right inside. The only thing of interest he finds is a scrapbook she has with different letters from her and Michael, different adventures she gone on, like random sentimental stuff like that. But he decides to get out of that room because Jonathan is finding a lot of stuff he finds interesting, and Aiden does not like that. Again, Aiden is not fully in control of his host's mind. We've already been over this. This is not saying that Aiden's a bad guy or actually feels any of this. He's disgusted by everything that is happening. I want to make that very clear, and he works so hard to stop it. But Jonathan still has some pull over his mind. So he goes back, finds a nice secluded corner just to watch the door from. Cunningham eventually comes over saying they'll be ready when you need them. And he's like, what? And he's like, oh, wrong guy. And Aiden's like, no, it's me, Aiden. It's me. But before he can get more clarity on this, the sounds of Evelyn crying start coming towards them, and Cunningham just hands him a single piece of paper that just has the phrase, all of them, written on it, and then leaves. Jonathan wants to go after him and chase him to get more information about this, but Michael is coming up the stairs at that point, so he stays put. He tries to calm his sister down. His sister does not calm down. She goes into her room, locks it. Her lady's maid, Madeline, tries to go into the room as well, but is also not allowed in. After a little bit, Michael spots Jonathan over there and goes over to him to talk. And like most of us already suspected, the only reason she's marrying Lord Ravencourt is because her family is basically on the brink of bankruptcy and they need money badly. So they're selling her off like an old piece of jewelry, like the book would say. I didn't come up with that. I'm not creative enough, unfortunately. Michael then notices the bandage on Jonathan's head and he's like, hey, what happened? And he's like, yeah, I got on the wrong side of Ted. Actually, this is a good time for me to bring up, do you know Felicity Maddox? She's one of your sister's friends, apparently. And he's like, yeah, but she's not here. And he's like, no, pretty sure she is on the ground somewhere. And Michael's like, no, she wasn't invited and Evelyn has told me nothing about this. Because Felicity is an old friend of Evelyn's who she hasn't spoken to in years of what Michael knows. Before they can get into this anymore, though, Dr. Dickey comes over to Jonathan and he's like, I need to talk to you. And so then they go to his mother's room to find that his mother died of a heart attack. Now, this isn't Aiden's mother, so he's not thinking he's really going to be grieving her, but of course, the host still has control over the body, so this deep feeling of grief washes over him, and this starts to pull at something from Aiden's past, and he's trying so desperately to hold on to it to figure out why this grief is hitting him personally so hard, but he can't quite get it. And the voice that is his voice inside all the host has tells him to let it go. Dr. Dickey then leaves Jonathan there to weep over his dead mother, and then Evelyn enters the room. She makes a little comment about how she's not the only one dying tonight, making it very clear that she knows what's happening. Now, she doesn't know who wants her dead, it's not that simple, but she did have a letter pushed under her door this morning with instructions for her to follow, basically, the suicide instructions. And if she doesn't follow through with these instructions, somebody she cares about dearly will, be sacrificed instead. She makes a comment that the Constable Rashton has a theory about this and how he is one of Jonathan's friends, so we're thinking this is another host, but we haven't really met him yet at all. But really, she needs to get on with this conversation because she's in a rush, 11 o'clock is drawing near, and she needs the pistol that Jonathan has so she can kill herself like she has the past few nights. Because it turns out his future selves are fairly confident they'll be able to solve this tonight and possibly save her, so she's just going through with this, hoping she doesn't have to actually pull the trigger tonight, but again, doesn't have all the information, so he decides to try to get a little more information out of her and asks about Felicity, and at that moment, she lets the jewelry box lid that she was holding open drop and puts her palms down on the table and just says, "I don't have time for this right now, and you also have to be somewhere," reminding him of the rock that Anna put in place for him to stand at tonight. So really, with no choice left after this very confusing conversation, he hands Evelyn the gun and then goes to his rock to watch the nightly events unfold. Once he arrives there, he sees the plague doctor in the tree. It appears he's talking to somebody, but he can't see the person he's talking to. And then he watches Evelyn's death happen again. But when she shoots herself this time, somebody is clearly running towards him. He turns around, takes the full hit of that person in the chest, and then the rage of Jonathan comes out and this person and him squabble on the ground. He ends up punching this person in the face multiple times. A couple servants come over, pull them apart, and that person happens to be Michael Hardcastle. Now, why was he in the woods of what I understand? I don't know. But a servant is having to hold him back while Dr. Dickey and now a random man in a trench coat are caring for Evelyn, or investigating the suicide of Evelyn. Like, it's they're not caring for her. She's gone, okay? She's gone. And so it should be fairly obvious to everyone, but this is a pretty big change from what happened with Ravencourt last night. Remember, Michael was able to run right to his sister and pull her into his arms right away. He didn't have to fight through anybody to get there. Cunningham is actually the one who is currently holding him back right now. And Aiden currently doesn't know what happened to cause this change. Jonathan just stands there taking in the whole scene, watching the crowd thin out, watching the random man with the trench coat clearly take charge of this situation. And then he hears the footmen. He sees the footman, chases him through the woods, they have a little fight, but then he gets his throat slit by him, and that is the end of Jonathan Derby, thank goodness. What are we all thinking? I want to know. Because I cannot stop thinking that it is Michael at this point. He is the one person that is interacting with everybody. And the plague doctor's like, hey, you're connected with the suspect by everybody. And I don't see how it's not him. He's the only other, important character that we see enough of for it to be him. Is he supposed to be the suspicious, or am I just catching on and being a good detective right now? I don't know. But why was he in the woods? I feel like there's some part of him that doesn't actually care about the sister in the way he claims he does, or there's jealousy there or something like that. And who is Felicity? Is this her lover? I don't know. It could just be a very good friend. I don't know what's happening. But really, our only suspects are Ted, who is just too obviously violent, Miss Derby, but she died, so it would be unsatisfying if it was actually her. You have Goldie, but he's already locked up. Mr. and Mrs. Hardcastle, they're too obvious for it to be them. Anna, I do think is an option, to be fair, but I just don't think it works out to be her. I think that's too complicated. You'd have to do too much twisting to make that happen. And of course there's Dr. Dickey and Cunningham. Cunningham is suspicious, but I feel like they're making him a little bit too suspicious. Not too suspicious, but suspicious enough where it's probably not him. And then there's Madeline, who I haven't really been considering, But she reads through all her mail. It's possible she could have seen something damning in the mail and she decided she needed to bring out justice, or she found a way to get money like Ted did. I don't know if that's a possibility either. Obviously, it's not Crowman or her dead brother or any of these people because it can't be them, but he is my number one suspect. I guess he has been for a while, but I feel like it's just more and more, it's just nagging at me. That is him. Again, I don't have any proof, but I think it's this guy. I really think it's this guy. But we still have 200 more pages, so I'm hoping I can find something else that takes me off of his case. Because I feel like, once again, I'm doing the thing where I fall for the red herring, because I do that every single time I read one of these books. I'm like, it's so obviously them, and then it's not. But it's not like obvious that it's him. It feels like it shouldn't be him. It's just playing out how the other ones play out, where it's like somebody they actually care about and they have a good relationship with, and they turn on them for whatever backstory reason. So it has to be him. Right? Please tell me I'm right. Oh my gosh. Day 6, 7, and 8 to go through. 8 is a very short day, so that's going to be solving it very fast. So I really only have 2 more days, I feel like, to really solve who it is before Aiden does. So at this point, if it is actually Michael, I have successfully solved it before Aiden, but I feel like I really need to lock in an answer by the end of day 7. Okay? Yeah. That's going to be our goal. Lock in an answer by the end of day 7, but at the end of day 5, my locked in answer for now is Michael Hardcastle. Do I know why? No. Oh, the dog's doing a drum solo. Get it, Winnie. Ooh, that's not good. I just got the first bit of news that actually made my jaw drop. Does this change things? I don't know. Can't be doing this right now. Too much is happening in this one. Oh my gosh. What is going on? Truly, I'm overconfident at this point, and I feel like the rest of this video is just a victory lap and I get to chill and just do a recap, but I'm still focusing in on all the clues. But the clues are all still pointing to this man right here. He, again, is just the only person who has really been here from the start of the book with any importance. Besides our cast of characters that that can't be the murderer. So who else can it be? Literally, what is the other option? Because I don't know at this point, and I think he's the only option. And if I'm wrong, no, I'm not gonna be wrong. I'm not gonna be wrong about this. I am so right. It's scary, okay? The author is scared for me to read any of their other books because they're definitely watching this. I hope they are, kind of, because I feel like this is the type of video I would want made about my book if I ever wrote one. I'm not gonna do that, don't worry. Okay, but anyways, let's continue the story and continue getting some of the mystery, because we still don't know how Michael, the murderer of his own sister, did it. Is that confirmed? No. But it is in my head. It is in my head. Our newest host is woken up by somebody saying, "Wake up, Aiden," which is really alarming because that's his actual name. And when he goes to answer the door, no, he's not a doctor. Not everybody is a doctor in this book, Natalie. Okay, Goldie over here is there, and he's like, "Dude, don't get in the carriage." Actually, he's saying the exact opposite. He's saying, "Dude, don't get out of the carriage. He'll cut you up so bad. Don't get out of the carriage." Like, he is hysterical. Dance, our host, is trying to talk to him, but Goldie isn't really responding. He's just telling him, "Don't get out of the carriage," and Dance is like, okay. Now, this is all clearly about the footman, and now it's revealed that apparently Goldie is one of his other hosts, maybe? We don't really know what's going on, because then Dance goes back to bed and Goldie's gone. We cut back to our butler for just a little bit, just long enough for him to see a man pacing back and forth in his room with a shotgun, and then we go back to Dance because Belle fell back asleep because so many drugs. Our host is being woken up by his son, who he is just disappointed by at all times, it seems like, asking him if he can be excused from the hunt this afternoon because he's not like other boys. He doesn't want to go on the hunt. And Aiden, controlling Dance, is like, "Yeah, sure, I really don't care." There's a bunch of law textbooks on his bedside table, and then he's hit with a wave of grief for his dead wife, Rebecca. And his name is, as I've already said, last name Dance. His first name is Edward, but Dance is way more fun to say. So Dance over here is an older man who really doesn't want to accept that he's old. He's the type of old man who's like, "Well, can't do anything about it. I just gotta accept my fate. There's no, like, medicine or glasses or anything like that that could help me. Nope, I just gotta suffer." Because that's what men do. Then a man that Aiden doesn't know, just walks into the room, and he seems very familiar with Edward. Not in that way. I mean, maybe, but no, not in that way. Then another guy comes in, who we actually recognize this time as Clifford Harrington, which was the man Ravencourt was sitting next to at that dinner, telling them that it's time to go because they can't keep old Hardcastle waiting. They're going to meet up with Mr. Hardcastle. And when they get into the hallway, Philip Sutcliffe is out there waiting for them. And then, at the bottom of the stairs, they meet up with a man called Peter, that's not right, Christopher Pettigrew. Peter Pettigrew is from Harry Potter, Natalie. That's not the book we're reading. Christopher, like, can a Peter be a Christopher? Chris? No, that would be a Chris. Okay. And these are the fellows I like to call the Law Boys. Will they be hidden behind me for most of this recap? Yeah, but they're the Law Boys, and just know they're on there, okay? As they walk, Mr. Pettigrew over here is talking about how Cunningham actually came up to him and was asking about Thomas Hardcastle's murder. But this is not one of the things that our Ravencourt asked him to do, so Aiden's a little confused on what Cunningham is doing, because he's claiming that Lord Ravencourt asked him to do this. We find out he's mainly been asking questions about the second killer, and finding out that they were shot with a shotgun, so they probably have a bullet wound. And of all the same guests here who were originally at the first party, if they can just find somebody with a gun wound on their arm, then, I mean, that's probably our killer. Have we looked at Michael's arm? I mean, I know he was 5 at the time, but have we checked? That's really all the new information we get from that conversation, so let's skip right over to them actually talking to Hardcastle. They're there to talk to him because they run a little law firm. Like I said, the Law Boys over here run a little law firm together, and run a little law firm as they're all filthy rich. They made the marriage contract between Ravencourt and Evelyn, so this is just for Hardcastle to look over and approve so both of them can sign and agree to this. After Hardcastle is done with all the business stuff, he turns the conversation over to how Ted Stanwin is blackmailing every single person in that room currently, and he thinks he has a way out of it. They're all pretty desperate to get Ted Stanwin out of their pockets because he's been blackmailing some of them for 20 plus years. They are over it. Remember, 20 years ago is around the time Thomas died, so he's been doing that since he got some money. Or maybe he didn't even get any money and he just had the blackmail and he started rolling with it then. They all agreed to this, so Mr. Hardcastle is like, okay, look, I got some tea on the blackmailer. Because it turns out he apparently has a hidden child that nobody knows about, that he's stashed somewhere. And apparently, Daniel knows her name. All Daniel wants in exchange for getting Ted Stanwin out of their pockets is one favor from each of them. Now, they do argue that this may just be trading a devil for another devil, but they're tired of Ted and they want to go to the grass on the other side because it's always greener, you know? Now that everything is done there, the rest of them leave, but Dan stays behind to talk to Hardcastle about some other stuff. Now, something we need to know about Dance is this man does not like being embarrassed, and he gets embarrassed pretty easily about asking like any personal questions. He's a very honorable man. I mean, he's a lawyer, so can he really be that honorable? No, but like, he's an honorable man. But Aiden pushes through all this because he wants to know if Mr. Hardcastle is aware that somebody has a plan to murder his daughter tonight. Of course, he doesn't believe this at first, but Dance gives him all the information he needs. And you want to know Lord Hardcastle's main concern about all of this? Not that his daughter will die. No. His main concern is that somebody is trying to get in between the deal he has with Ravencourt and make him go into bankruptcy. Not his daughter's life. No. Money. And it all turns out that he has lots of enemies and doesn't really know who would actually be after him right now. So Dance just throws out the question, could it be your wife? And he's like, whoa, no. She does not like Evie. That's fair. Yeah, definitely doesn't like her, but she's not gonna kill her. She still loves her in like a mother way. Like, even when you hate your kid, but they're your kid, I guess you still love them, but I think that's a bunch of bullshit, but that's a different story. You can't, no. You can't just say you love someone and then not treat them that way and still claim you love them, because you don't. You're lying to them and yourself and everybody else. You don't love them. If you're not acting like it, if you're not seeing the fruits of love, then you don't love them. That doesn't necessarily mean you hate them, but stop saying you love them. Stop lying to everyone. But anyways, moving on from that leads Dance into questioning Mr. Hardcastle if he knows anything about a Felicity Maddox. She's been brought up 2 times. If she gets brought up a 3rd time, I'll put her on the board. But Evelyn and her dad have really not talked at all over the past 20 years, so he knows nothing about her life and definitely nothing about this Felicity. But he does slip in that Michael and her have been really close throughout this time, so if anybody's gonna know anything about a Felicity, it would be Michael. And have you noticed yet that every time we talk about Evelyn, Michael gets brought up because they're apparently oh so close. Why you always getting brought up, Michael? I just think it's a little suspicious. But anyways, these two get back on the topic of Helena and how this whole party is a complete disaster. And Lord Hardcastle goes over that, yes, Helena means to embarrass Evelyn with all this as a punishment for what happened to Thomas. She really hasn't let go of that grudge from 19 years ago. But Ravencourt has assured him personally that he has no plans to touch his daughter in any way. Evelyn's just gonna end up with the run of the house and a bunch of money and be able to do anything she wants with her life, that as long as it doesn't embarrass him. Peter Hardcastle really doesn't know anything besides this, but he does have Helena's plans in his day planner because apparently that's something married couples used to do back in the day. So he grabs all her plans for the day, which he's pretty disappointed to find out that she talked to Cunningham this morning, and then she had the appointment with Miss Derby, which we already knew about, and the only other plan that's on there that he didn't know about was a meeting with the stable master at a time that I didn't write down, but it's at a time before he meets with Ravencourt. Yeah? Yeah. Oh, I did write it down. It's 11:30. I just don't know how to read. I don't know how to read my notes. He is really confused, though, on why she would need to meet with Cunningham at 7:30 a.m. Like, that's just a really early hour to be meeting with anyone, especially a random footman. What is this man called? He's something. So he decides to ask Peter on why Helena would be meeting with Cunningham that early, especially since we know this is his bastard son, and is even wondering if this is the piece of information Ted has on Hardcastle that he's blackmailing him with. But we already know that everybody kind of knows that this is his son, so that wouldn't be great blackmail now, would it? Mr. Hardcastle wants to stop the conversation right now, but Dan's is like, look, if I'm going to save your daughter and your money, then I need to know everything that Ted has on you. Well, as it turns out, before Thomas Hardcastle was murdered, Helena over here was having an affair with Charlie Carver. That's right, Charlie Carver, the murderer of her son. And you know what's even crazier? Cunningham over here is not Mr. Hardcastle's bastard child. No. Cunningham is Miss Hardcastle's son, or Lady Hardcastle's son that she had with Charlie Carver, the murderer of her other son. And you want to know when he found out and let Carver know that he was let go? On the day his son was murdered. Before it happened, obviously. So there's freaking motive for Carter, that's for sure. But, how Miss Hardcastle got away with this was that Lord Hardcastle was out hunting when the baby was born. So when the baby was born, she had a maid take him to the village, had somebody watch over him for a little bit. And since Lord Hardcastle was having his own affairs at this time, eventually the maid came up and she was like, this is your baby. And he was like, oh, crap. And she was like, oh, guess we have to let the cook raise it to dishonor you. And I'm going to tell every single tabloid about it. So you can't throw this back on me. Dance is like, dude, why don't you just divorce her if she did this? And he's like, no, I can't. That would be embarrassing. Oh, and it turns out Michael, Evelyn, and Cunningham know nothing about this, but what if they do? Almost died. But what if they do? I feel like one of them probably knows something about this. Like, secrets are not that well kept in high society. Everybody knows everything about everybody because they love the gossip over a morning tea. Now that he's got all the information he can get from Peter Hardcastle, he leaves, but actually he doesn't leave the gatehouse. He just goes to check on Goldie over here because we know Goldie's in the gatehouse, but Goldie is not responding to him. Then somebody sneaks up on him and is like, don't move, but it just happens to be Anna. But this is earlier in the day, so she hasn't really met Aiden yet in this form. So he has to be like, hey, it's me. And she's like, oh, I didn't know you could be this old. You're so old. He then looks out the window and sees Daniel talking to the plague doctor guy. They seem to be having a pretty chummy conversation, honestly. And then he has to explain the whole plague doctor thing to Anna because this time loop situation is really weird. And she somehow gets hung up on the fact that Aiden is still trying to save Evie instead of just finding out who killed her. But he's like, shouldn't we be trying to save her? Doesn't that make us good people to try to save her? But she's really, really stuck on the fact that the plague doctor said that was impossible. And he's trying to tell her that not everything the plague doctor says is true. She keeps on arguing this, and he goes, the plague doctor told me you were going to betray me, and I don't think that's true. Oh, and he also told me you know more about the last loop than you let on. And she denies both of these things and agrees that maybe the plague doctor is lying at times. They're talking a little more, and he brings up that he thinks he came to Blackheath for a woman. He doesn't know if that woman was Anna or what this woman's relationship was to him. It was just for a woman. Then Anna brings up the plan. She has to kill the footmen at 10:20 at night by writing a letter to Sebastian Bell and all of them ganging up on him. But like, that didn't work last time, but for some reason we're still going with this plan. And he's like, maybe it works this time. And why do we think it's gonna work this time? But she writes out the note, and then he adds the last little bit about your gloves, they're burning, go get them, dude. And that's the end of that chapter. So now he's off to go meet with the stable master and hopes to be there when Helena Hardcastle arrives to be able to talk to her. And on his way there, he passes by some servants who are helping out the horses, and he's like, hey, stable master? And he's like, oh yeah, I actually just saw him go for a walk in the woods with somebody a little bit ago. If you hurry, you can probably catch up to them. And he's like, oh crap, Helena is already here and talking to him. I don't want to miss her. So he goes running or walking and then kind of a trot as fast as he can in his old man body. They mention it a lot. Like, they don't stop talking about how old this dude is, okay? Anyways, he eventually catches up to them, but it turns out that it's actually just the stable master and Cunningham over here. It's not Helena. She's nowhere to be seen. But as soon as he approaches, both of them shut up. They stop talking. They do not want him to overhear. It is obvious. He quickly quizzes Cunningham on why he was seeing Helena at 7:30 this morning when nobody else has seen her after that fact, and Cunningham's like, I don't know, dude, I just have to talk to her. So he gives that up because it's clear Cunningham is not going to give up anything. They all then make it back to the stable master's dwelling place. They wait for Lady Hardcastle about 10 minutes after her appointment time. Eventually Cunningham leaves, leaving Dan some time to talk with the stable master to see if he has any information. Mainly any information on what he was just talking about with Cunningham over here. At first, the stable master is like, no, I'm not going to tell you. And then he's like, I'm going to ruin you if you don't. So the stable master's like, okay, I'll tell you. And it turns out Cunningham was asking about the murdered boy, Thomas. We already knew who's asking around about that, but the stable master seems to have some information. Because he wasn't asking about Thomas. He was actually asking about Keith Parker. He was a stable boy working there at the time that was murdered about a week before Thomas, but nobody ever talks about him. It's clear to Dance, though, there's more to the story, so he presses more and more and more to get that information. And the thing is, apparently Charlie Carver couldn't have killed Thomas, because Charlie Carver was talking to the stable master earlier that day and then was like, hey, can you give me a second alone in your space? I need to talk to somebody. And so he pretended to leave completely, but was spying on his own house and saw Helena Hardcastle come in, and they were talking to each other until just a few minutes before the murder happened. Aiden's like, okay, why didn't you ever tell anybody about this? And the reason is Helena told him not to, which doesn't make sense. It seems like she would want to protect Charlie Carver, who it was very clear she was actually in love with. And it's pretty clear that Charlie didn't kill her son, and he didn't just not tell anyone because he respected Helena so much and didn't want to interfere with the police that much. It was because the knife that was used to kill Thomas was his knife, and he was scared if it ever came back to him, he could be blamed for it and punished for the crime that he didn't commit. The thing is, Aiden is getting distracted by the red herrings, not me this time, and he's really caught up on the fact that Helena is trying to kill Evie, which I don't think she is. I think she's just a misunderstood, really bad lady in other ways, but not like in a murder way. Anyways, Aiden's really caught up on this, and he's now really wondering if Helena has a gun wound, so he wants to talk to, I keep hitting that lamp, Dr. Dickey, to see if he treated anybody for a gun wound that day. And you know how he's gonna get that information? Blackmail. That's right, this is the blackmail chapter because he knows Dr. Dickey sells drugs with Sebastian Bell. So he goes and threatens Dr. Dickey that he's gonna tell Ted about this blackmail that he has on him if he doesn't fess up about stuff, but it's clear that he literally didn't treat anyone that day for any gun wounds, especially Helena. So this leads Dance back into the drawing room being like, maybe it's not Helena. And this gives him a shot to see the interaction between Lucy and Ted in a different light. And it's clear that Lucy isn't just scared here, she's surprised that Ted is doing this. And not necessarily actually scared of him. And Ted also looks surprised that he's doing this. And for some reason, Dance doesn't think of the possibility that Lucy is the daughter that Ted has stashed away somewhere. But I feel like it's pretty freaking obvious. But that may just be because I'm reading the book and they were just like, oh, this daughter, and then this happened. And I was like, oh, daughter. So like you mention a daughter and then you show an interaction between a guy with a girl that could be his daughter's age, and it's a little weirder than people think, but it's not weird in like that way, you know? Then all the men go outside because it is time for the hunt. Eventually Michael comes around and he's like, I'm so sorry about the delay, and I'm so sorry that my father isn't here. He just didn't want to be here. So real, Mr. Hardcastle. Anyways, he's also having to calm everybody down because they are taking a different route because Sebastian Bell thinks he saw somebody die in the forest that morning, and nobody is really happy about this different route, but he's like, it literally doesn't affect anything. I don't get why y'all are upset. We are just trying to help a girl out. She may be dead, okay? And during all of this, he is handed a black revolver, the same one that matches Evie's black revolver, the one that their mother has, okay? The black revolver, everybody has one. They stole it from their mother and now he has a black revolver and she does too.
My camera overheated, and in that time I accidentally untied the hat. I think this is a much better way. Do I look pretty?
At the beginning of this walk, Dance really wants to meet up with Ted so he can talk some stuff out with him and maybe also blackmail him, maybe, who knows. There's a lot of blackmail. This man loves spilling tea. But Daniel actually comes and finds him and he has some stuff to warn him about. Like the fact that even though this older man's body is exhausting to live in and just exist in general, Daniel is not going to be any funner, any better to be in, I know proper words, any better. Oh, I'm not even filming this late. Daniel's not going to be any better to be in because his soul is apparently pitch black and he is very hard to fight against. Then he talks about how he got the bruises on his face by trying to catch the footmen by himself with the plan they had to get him while he was talking to Ravencourt that nobody else actually went to. But he still tried, so luckily he's not dead. He just got a couple bruises, so that's good. And also, yeah, he doesn't really have a plan for getting Anna out of here. He doesn't know how he's gonna do that, and actually he just knows at this point he's probably not gonna do that. That's not gonna happen. Then Michael comes over to them, ranting about searching for a dead woman and how nobody is taking this seriously, and Danielle's like, oh yeah, actually that was a misunderstanding. That was just between Derby over here running after Madeline, but like he wasn't being a monster this time, it was an actual misunderstanding. And Michael's like, what? Why didn't you tell me earlier? And they're like, we forgot. During this whole exchange though, it's very obvious to Aiden that Daniel version of Aiden cares a lot about Michael, like doesn't suspect him at all, and he finds Michael very endearing. And so does his current host, Dance, because Michael then calls Dance Uncle Edward, so their families are clearly very close. And again, too many people trust this man, and it's so weird for them to be like, oh, but Daniel finds him so endearing. It's like trying so hard to throw you off his tail when actually you should be on it. Anyways, they go on to talking about how Michael's mother has been acting strange since they got here, and he brings up that it actually all started because of the clothes. And they're like, what? And he's like, yeah, last year she came here on the anniversary of Thomas's death and found these clothes and said this changes everything and then gave us no more information. So the clothes made her go insane. Eventually they get to the place that it's planned for the older men to stay back, rest, have a little drink, a little lunch, all that good stuff, while the younger men go off and hunt in the area. So Dance, being an old man, sits down, exhausted from this long walk, and passes out, and that cuts us back over to the butler. Nope, there he is. The plague doctor is in the butler's room again, explaining that that one of his rivals is very close to solving the murder, so he needs to hurry up. He's kind of out of it and asking why he needs to hurry, like what's the rush, blah, 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 you know, besides his rival figuring it out. And the plague doctor's like, what's your name? And he responds, Edward, no. Derby, no. Aiden Bishop. He gets there at some point, but it's clear that he's kind of losing himself to his host, and he knew this had been slowly happening because, get this, they've been in this time loop for so long, like he's done this same loop at least 1,000 times according to the plague doctor. Too many times for him to count is what he says. And this is an 8-day loop every time, and I don't know how the time works here. Is he just like a really old man back in the real world now? But he just advises him to hold on to that little voice he's hearing in the back of his head, because that is the actual Aiden Bishop, and that is what is tethering him to his body still. And if he loses that, he will lose the possibility of ever returning home. The amount of times he's been through all this makes him wonder how he keeps failing. And the plague doctor's like, I don't know, man. This is all really complicated, but the Aiden Bishop that came in here is unyielding with his tactics, and I don't think he would have ever been able to solve this, but the Aiden Bishop I see before me now is a very different man and at least has a chance. Mind you, yes, he's done this 1,000 or so times, but he doesn't remember anything besides one clue from the past loop that he went on, and that's just the loop right before. He doesn't get these big clues that he's figuring out over time, but I mean, I figured it out all in one because it's obviously Michael, so I don't get why this guy couldn't figure it out. That's so silly. Anyway, the plague doctor thinks at this point he's given him his best shot to get out of here, and he just needs to focus up and use the time he has left to solve this murder before one of his rivals does. He falls asleep again, and then we're back in Dance's body, and he goes over to talk to Ted now after his little cat nap, because he wants to know what Ted actually saw on the morning of Thomas Hardcastle's murder by Charlie Carver. He gives us all the same information we've already heard like 1,000 times at this point, and then he's like, but Alf says that Charlie Carver couldn't have been there that day, so what do you have to say to that? And he's like, well, Alf, the stable master, is a liar. And it's very clear that even if Ted isn't telling the truth, he's not going to back down from calling Alf a liar. Dance keeps trying to push it though, so then Ted does what Ted does best and is like, oh, who's actually the mother of your child? Because we know it's not the wife you're deeply, deeply in love with, named Rebecca, who's dead now. And this freezes Dance up. Now, that doesn't really have that much effect on Aiden, but Dance, the host, is so caught up with this, Aiden can't get a word out of him. While Dance is frozen up, Ted just advises him that next time he wants to trade secrets, he actually has something. But the thing is, he doesn't actually get to finish that sentence because then he gets shot by Daniel. See, Daniel told Lord Hardcastle that he had a plan to get Ted out of the way, and he just needed a few favors from people. And it turns out his plan was just murder. And his favor is that none of them say anything until tomorrow, because this won't be Aiden's problem tomorrow, this will be Daniel's. And he's already said that Daniel has a soul that is pitch black apparently, so he's not a good guy. So he's like, oh well. Everybody acts pretty concerned at first, but then they're like, well, like, I guess we just won't tell anybody. I mean, that sucks. Our blackmailer is dead. The most hung up on the guy being dead is Michael, but you know, he's just really hung up on it because apparently he was in partnership with Ted to kill his sister. At least that's my running theory right now. Aiden in Dance's body is like, what happened to cause me to stoop this low? Because he doesn't want to kill anybody. Once everybody else clears out, it's just Dance and Daniel there. And Daniel's like, help me search the body. I need to find the code book because in his ledger, it's all coded and there's a bunch of secrets in there that can probably help us solve Evelyn's murder. But I need the code book, so help me find it because so we can both get out of here. Dance is helping him out, but he's also like, morally, this is horribly wrong. And Daniel's like, morally, I don't care at this point. So eventually they do find this code book that is always on Ted's body, and Daniel has the ledger because Daniel actually, before Aiden got control of him, had sent somebody to go get the ledger from Ted's room or hired somebody to do that. And then by the time Aiden got into Daniel's body, he figured that out and he was like, well, one of my other hosts is gonna get smashed in the head, but also Derby's kind of insane and the world may be better without him for a few hours, so I'll just let it keep happening. And now everybody just heads back to the house, giving Dan some time to think about what just played out, and he thinks about the fact that the plague doctor just talked to him about how the Aiden who came in here was very unyielding when there was a problem that needed to be solved. But that Aiden has never been able to figure out the problem. So he basically makes a vow to himself that when he gets to Daniel's position, he will find a different way to do this. Once they all make it back to the house and they're in a little more privacy, Michael makes it very clear to all of them that he does not want to keep this secret and he does not approve of this because he was working in tandem with Ted to kill his sister. But anyways, I will honor my father's deal and keep this secret for you. But that ends tomorrow and I will be calling somebody up here to deal with this. Daniel just brushes this off and tells Dance that Michael is just upset because he thinks he's acting out of greed and he doesn't understand the full picture that he's actually trying to save his sister, but I think that's why he's so upset. I think that is why he's so upset, because he wants his sister dead. I don't know why he wants his sister dead, but he wants his sister dead, man. Oh my word. Michael just wants to marry Lord Ravencourt. Silly me. How could I not see the romance blossoming? I even put them beside each other. Look at them, right? That's the reason, right? After all this, Dance gets back to his room to find Anna in there holding a shotgun. It's not aimed at him. And he's like, okay, I guess we're just gonna talk. I don't know why, but then somebody grabs him from behind and covers his mouth before he can scream and stabs him in the chest. And then he sees that it's the footman and he says, run, little rabbit, run. And that is the end of our day with Dr. Dance. Then we go over to the butler and he wakes up with Anna and the footman in the room and the footman's like, oh, is this him? And Anna's like, yes. And then the butler also gets stabbed and dies. So at this point, we only have 3 people left. 2 full days to go through, and Davis, who is not dead. The rest of them are, let's see, he didn't die, dead, didn't die, and where's the other one? Dead. So 3 out of the 8 of them are dead, and he's already used 2 of the others completely and only has a little bit of time left with Davis, but Davis is so far away from the house right now. Yeah, so like I said, I really didn't get any new suspects from this or anything. Michael honestly came even more to the forefront in this because he's just so vital in so many ways. And again, the plague doctor said that it was somebody that they were all connected to, would witnesses for, and Michael is the only one they've all been around besides Cunningham, but I don't think Cunningham has the motive. I think they're trying to give him a possible motive, but I don't think it's enough for him to act off of. I think their relationship is more strained than we think, and there's some big secret between the two that caused him to kill her. That is my theory, but we have about 150 pages left. About 100 of those are in our last 7th day full POV, and then the last 40 to 50 I feel like are mainly going to be explaining everything. I could be wrong about that, but I'm going to read these next 100 pages. I will come to my final conclusions before we get to day 8, and let the record show, I was very confident that it was Michael by day, what is today, day 6? No, day 5 was the first time I fully said it was going to be Michael and on the murder. And I still want to lock in that answer. I think it's the only possible answer. Am I missing something? I feel like it's gonna be some minor stupid character. Oh no. No, it has to be him. There's no one else it can be. The Law Boys? Dr. Dickey? I feel like they wanted me to think it was Ted and they wanted me to think it was Dr. Dickey, but it's not those guys.
Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling because that's all I'm doing right now and solve this murder and get a reason for this murder. I've already solved who did it, but like, I can't just go to a lawyer and be like, I know it was him because I know, you know? So I gotta solve it. I gotta solve it. I'm gonna come to you with concrete reasoning next time. Hopefully. Maybe. Look, the goal of this video was just to figure out who the murderer was, and I think I've done that. So if I can get a reasoning too, that's great. I'm less than 20 pages into this section, and this is already the most confusing section we got to. I still stand by my point so far, but there's been some kinks thrown into everything. No, it's super cool. I thought it was like really smart for a second. Everything is being flipped upside down. This isn't fair. No, it's not fair. Not fair. Oh, okay. Yep. Well, then. Accident? I'm right. I'm so right. I have the answers. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna be so sad now. Just in case this is all revealed before I get to the end of this day, and I don't get to do like the whiteboard portion, I want to say it now. I think what's happened, and it's pretty clear for the most part, is that Michael connected the memories that his mom killed his brother, and then I think even Evelyn was keeping the secret for some reason to try to protect Michael, maybe? And he didn't take that well, and now he's trying to kill all of his family as penance for killing his brother? I think that's what's going on. It's gonna be so bad if Michael's not even the murderer. Is this too soon to be revealing all this for the actual killer? I don't know. But like, they haven't really revealed it. It's just... Alright. We got a lot to talk about. I'm very confused. There's 50 pages left of this book, and I'm more confused than I've ever been before. Okay? That's where we're at. The first plot Aiden is hit with when he wakes up in his new host body is that the plague doctor was right. Anna betrayed him. But then he starts to come to terms with his surroundings and realize he spent the night in a storage cupboard under a stage. They just have a little theater in this room because they're very fancy. It's a very big house. But right away, he does know that he is Jim Rashton. He's 27 and he's a constable on the police force. His parents are Margaret and Henry. He has a sister and a dog, and he's in love with a woman named Grace Davis, who's the reason he's at this party. See, the barrier that used to exist between Aiden and his host is very, very thin now. He didn't know this much information about any of his previous hosts when they started out. Then all of a sudden, Anna, the betrayer, runs into the room and she's like, oh, thank goodness, I'm glad you're here. He really doesn't trust her right now and starts talking to her like that. And she's like, look, I just woke up a little bit ago. I'm not the Anna that did anything to betray you at this point. I need you to trust me. But he still doesn't, so she starts diving into some details about some of their previous loops. And it turns out, on one of these previous loops, he murdered her. Yep. He just panicked at the end of this loop, thought he was getting close, but she was getting in the way, so he murdered her. But this very morning, she woke up remembering this, but then this morning she was woken up by a version of him pushing a book into her hand with a bunch of instructions on how to go about today and what she needs to do to keep him safe. And this version of him kept going on about how they can't keep making the same mistakes they've always been making, and he just seems very self-aware. So to try to gain his trust back, she hands him a chess piece and explains that on one of their previous loops, this was the way they started to identify each other when he was in different bodies, was with him having a bishop because his name is Aiden Bishop, and her having a knight because she is his protector, basically. She's running around trying to keep him safe so he can solve this and get them both out of there. And it starts to click, and he gets the feeling that yes, he did do what she's saying. He knows he did it. And then he has to admit to her that he doesn't know how to get her out of here. But she already knows that as well. But she also knows that he can't leave here without her. He won't do it. That's not his personality. And he knows that about himself very well as well. She then slaps him for murdering her, which is fair, honestly, and then they get moving about their day. And it turns out the footman had a plan right now, which was to run off and kill Rashton in his sleep in his bedroom. So the footman is probably around there, and Rashton kind of takes over and he's like, okay, so the footman's gonna be there. We can take him by surprise and maybe I can take him down. And I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea, but Rashton does it. And it wasn't a good idea. He almost dies, but luckily the footman gets scared off because she says something, but she's in the shadows so the footman doesn't see her and know it's her. So like, it's all chill, really. He's just a little beat up now. After the whole fight, she goes running to him and she's like, you only have 3 hosts left. You need to be careful. You have this host, Davis, who is far, far away, and then you have... And after the fight, she's like, you have to be careful. You only have 3 hosts left. And he's like, oh, yeah, I do only have 3 hosts left. And the thing is, one of those hosts is Rashton. Another of those hosts is Gregory Davis in the auto far, far away. And then Gregory Gold is also definitely his host at some point because of the whole interaction he had with Ravencourt. No. Oh shit, who was that? Derby? I think he had that with Derby. Yeah. No, Dance, he had that with Dance. It was Dance. Oh my gosh. So it all starts to click that he doesn't actually know who Daniel is, but it's clear that Daniel is not his future self. And Daniel over here is actually one of the other rivals. I got a little presumptuous, circling him. Look, I'll take the blame. I wasn't suspicious of him at all, and that is my bad. Whoops. Daniel is not our day 8 host. Our day 8 host is the one and only, like we already said, I don't know why I'm trying to build it up, Gregory Golden, who, as you might remember, is locked up in the gatehouse, so not gonna be super useful. And it seems like his mind is broken by something that happened on the previous day, so that's fine. And yes, I did think about printing him off a picture because I think I said I did if he got more important, but I like that drawing, so he stays. So right now, he doesn't know what the heck Daniel is doing at all at this moment, but he is really stuck on Helena and how she's involved with all of this. So he's going to investigate that. So he goes to her room and kicks open the door, which explodes the lock. So that solves the mystery of who broke into her room. It was him. Isn't it always him when we think it's something suspicious? It's just always Aiden doing something. By the time he gets there, the bed is already cold, so she's been gone for a while. He searches her room again, and he's really just left with the same questions of, why would Evelyn take 2 revolvers if she's planning to kill herself, but had the forethought to give one to Michael to just be nice about it? And who took the day planner page? When he gets out of the room, Anna is asking him if he's seen Gold, but he hasn't. So she explains that she needs to find him because she's supposed to get him and the butler to somewhere safe where she can guard them for the day and keep them safe, but not make it obvious that she's guarding them for the day. So that's how they both end up at the gatehouse like they do. So when Gold jumps out just a minute later to attack Mr. Collins, Aiden is the one who stops this and slams a vase over Gold's head so they can take them both to the gatehouse so Anna can guard them.
And truly at this point, Aiden is kind of spiraling because he has 50,000 questions and 0 answers. Right now, we need to figure out who Evelyn's killer is and also get proof that we can show the plague doctor guy so they can both get out of here. Why Evelyn stole 2 guns when she's just planning to kill herself. Where the hell Helena Hardcastle is all damn day. Who ripped out the page of her day planner? And who is Daniel? When he gets back to his room, he finds a note from the one and only Gregory Golden. And it's a list of a few, chemicals that he's told to grab at some point, and he's like, okay? But there's nothing else on that note. Now, I would like to mention, the book mentions that Rashton has a bullet scar on his left shoulder, but he was far too young when the whole Thomas thing happened to actually be involved in all of that, so don't worry about that. I just feel like I need to mention it because when I saw that, I was like, oh my word, and then I remembered he was like 20, so it doesn't work out as well. Or he's like 27, but he would be 7 at the time. I don't think he was responsible for killing the kid, you know? Then his lovely girlfriend Grace comes in and she's talking about how her stupid brother stole a car last night or borrowed a car last night and drove far, far away from here and they can't even find him yet. And she feels like it's all because of the drugs he gets from Sebastian Bell. And she's really sick of these drugs. And she really, really would like to find a way to get rid of these drugs and just get them out of the house. And that's when Rashton gets an idea, but they need to talk to Charles, who is actually Charles Cunningham. They need to talk to Cunningham, who is actually their good friend. They're gonna do that in a little bit though, because right now Rashton is actually running upstairs to talk to Ted, where Derby is currently knocked out in the other room. When he knocks, Stanwin's like, the man at the center of all of this. And he's like, what? But apparently Ted has sussed out that he's working with Ravencourt, Cunningham, and Daniel in some way, because all 4 of them have been asking about this murder case that happened 19 years ago. After a little bit more talking or arguing or whatever you want to call it, he finally gets to the point of spilling the information he has on Ted that he's willing to sell to somebody to blackmail him with. And Ted's like, oh, and you want to know what that information is? Yes, of course, it's the information that Lucy is his daughter. That's the first thing I've been right about in this book, I think. Apparently Aiden caught on to it around the same time we did, but he just didn't say anything to us, which I find rather rude, but whatever. He's not blackmailing Ted with that info. But he promises to keep the secret, though, if Ted tells him what actually happened the day Thomas died. He tells him the same story that everybody's heard a billion times at this point, and he's like, no. The real one. Because he knows the family didn't just give him a plantation to thank him for saving or not even saving their kid. And it's not because of the other reason people think it is, that it's the blackmail to stop him from talking about Cunningham actually being Helena's kid, putting shame on the whole Hardcastle family. And he's right, because he's blackmailing Helena because what he saw that day was not Charlie Carver there and another man running away. It was Helena holding her dead son who had a knife in his throat, and she was covered in blood. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Let me explain how we actually get this information, because Ted is not a man who gives in easily. The reason we actually got this is because Aiden revealed that Daniel has a plan to kill him later today, because he was actually planning to sell his business to Daniel, and Daniel just didn't want to pay for it, so he was going to kill him and just get the business that way, you know, because he would have the ledger and all that good stuff, and then he doesn't have to pay him any money. So it's basically them exchanging a murder for a murder. Now, how does he know that Helena actually killed her kid? Well, apparently she basically confessed it, which is what the book says, which makes me think that it still wasn't Helena who killed her kid, but it's just, I don't understand. I think it is. I think the book just worded it in a weird way where it doesn't sound like they're matter of fact about it, which I really wish they were if this is the case. Now, if there is a twist, I'll be very happy about this because it's just weird wording here. And the reason Charlie Carver got blamed for this is because, yes, Helena cared about him, but Charlie Carver was at a point where he didn't think he was going to get another job after this house, so he wanted to save the woman he loved, Helena Hardcastle. I don't know if he truly had any involvement, but he basically went to the gallows to protect her. Anyways, I'm just gonna keep talking at this point. Oh, it's off. Okay. If it goes off again, I'm not stopping. Oh, it messed me up so much. I forgot to mention that Charlie Carver was carrying a freaking bag around the house after he got fired, like looking in the kids' rooms for some reason, and I don't know what that's about at all. Find that weird. And then he didn't have it when he showed up at the lake to find Ted and Helena there with the dead boy. So, like, what was that bag? I would like to know, but I'm sure maybe we'll find that out later, hopefully. I don't know. And that's kind of all the information we get from there. To sum it up, Helena is actually responsible for the murder of what we know. Charlie took the blame, but he did have a random bag, and we don't know where that bag is. That's about all the information we actually got there. Okay, cool. I know it's like a big deal, but like, I'm not really concerned about the murder that happened 19 years ago. I'm sorry. I don't care about this kid. He's fictional and from 19 years ago. I said I'm talking through it, so we're talking through it. Gosh dang it. So with all this fun information, he decides to go spend his time and chase Daniel through the woods to see if he can find any information out from him. Only to see him ask the footmen to purposely beat him up. So him and the footmen are in cahoots. And they're both looking for Anna. And then the plague doctor comes out, so it looks like they're hunting for Anna on the plague doctor's behalf. And I don't know about you, I mean, he's been creepy and weird, but he hasn't given me like bad guy vibes. So why is the plague doctor here? Daniel and the plague doctor then actually walk further into the woods, and he tries to chase after them. I can't talk. He tries to chase after them, but it doesn't work. So, oops, they gone. Then the little voice of actual Aiden Bishop in his head is like, it's the finish line you should be concerned about. And he knows that means the graveyard, but he doesn't understand what that means. But he knows it means the graveyard, but like, there's just like, he understands, but he doesn't. That's half of this book. Then he runs off to go to the lake where Thomas was murdered because he's in the body of a policeman, so he figures he might be able to find some more clues, but it's a lake where a kid was murdered 19 years ago. There's nothing new here. So then he goes over to where Evelyn is going to die tonight by the reflecting pool and spends some time looking around there until his girlfriend, Grace, comes over and she's like, where have you been? You good, homie? No, not the hiccups! So he ends up talking to his girlfriend. This is a disaster. I'm gonna take 5. You know, I'm gonna take 5. His girlfriend Grace and him are now catching up about their day, and then he asks her if she was here when Thomas Hardcastle died. And it turns out, yeah, she was. She was here the entire week leading up to that because her family has always been good friends with the Hardcastles. Now, she didn't see anything happen while she was there, but she does let us know that during the scavenger hunt, Thomas was like, guys, I gotta go after he asked the time. And he just like bolted off, knowing the exact time, which is really weird for a 7-year-old kid to do. And he had also been acting kind of off the entire week because he just wasn't talking as much when normally he was a complete pest. This gives him some more ideas that he doesn't let us in on because he does a lot of his thinking by himself, and he'll tell us later when it's a more fun reveal. They head back into the house and they finally run into their friend Cunningham. Lucky for us, he conveniently found the key for Sebastian Bell's case of drugs, so they go and do a little robbery. They go in, he lets the other 2 people find the trunk because he knows exactly where it is and he doesn't want to be weird about it. So they find it, they put all the drugs in a bag, and now they're like, Grace, actually, can you give the men a second to talk? Because we need to talk about some stuff. And she's like, okay, I don't care. Grace is super chill. And it turns out Cunningham over here is the one that hits Derby over the head with the vase. Meaning Cunningham knows about the ledger. See, he was working with Daniel because Daniel assured him that if he was able to get the ledger and the code book, then he would be able to prove his father's innocence. And he really wants to do that. And then Rashton, his good friend, has to be like, oof, yeah, we can prove your father's innocence, but your mom, on the other hand, may have murdered her son. Whoopsies. Sorry. And he's like, oh, he takes it surprisingly well. Like, not too well where it feels like he knew, but surprisingly well. Maybe he did know. No, now that I'm thinking about this, maybe he did take it a little too well, but I don't think he did. I'm questioning everything. And again, during this whole thing, it's mentioned that Helena Hardcastle has been acting off for a year since she came here on the anniversary of Thomas's death last year. It's just something's been off with her. And she's been talking about making things right, and they're thinking maybe she's planning to confess everything tonight at the ball with all the same people that were here. That would make things right? But they don't really know. All she did was tell Cunningham she would explain more to him after she talked to the stable master this afternoon. So that's why he was over there when we were in Dance's POV. Then Rashton's like, okay, look, I need a couple favors from you. Can you help me out with that so we can figure some stuff out? And he's like, okay, cool. And he's like, I need you to talk to Miss Stretch about exactly what we don't know. Why would he tell us? It's not like we're following him. Then he needs Cunningham to gather a few people together and also tell Derby everything he's discovered, apparently. Then he runs off with Grace to throw all the fun things in a well so nobody can get to them. The well doesn't have water in it that people are drinking. Imagine somebody comes by for a drink and they're just gone. No. This well is empty. While they're there, he decides to take this time to ask Grace a couple other questions about the day that Thomas died. The first one is, was Charles on the scavenger hunt with y'all? Was he around? And she's like, yes, he actually was. And then he's like, was Michael? And you know what this girl says? No, he was sick or something. He wasn't with us. What were you doing that day, Michael? Did you kill your brother at the age of 5 years old? Did you do it?
Okay, but like logically what I think actually happened was he was somehow out in the woods or something happened with him and Charlie Carver. And then he saw his mom in the woods holding his dead brother's body. I think something along those lines happened and he's been holding a grudge for a while, man. After finding this out, Aiden runs off to go talk to Anna, who is in the gatehouse standing over Peter Hardcastle's dead body. Cool. And there's a really nice note next to him that reads, I couldn't marry Lord Ravencourt, and I couldn't forgive my family for making me make that decision. They have brought this upon themselves. Signed, Evelyn Hardcastle. Now, did Evelyn write this note? Absolutely not. But whoever planted it here went very far in trying to make it look like she did by putting a little, woman's boot print. They got one of the Little Women. They got one of their boots and they put that print outside the window. It was fascinating. Crossover. But anyways, more serious note. Peter Hardcastle is dead. Evelyn Hardcastle is dying tonight. And the last time anybody saw Helena Hardcastle was at 7:30 this morning. Could she be dead? Is she in hiding? We don't know. And then again, police officer brain is like, I know how this guy was killed. It was this type of poison. Cetacridine. Cerdinine. Yep, cerdinine. That's what poisoned him. Don't know if that's real or not, but that's what I said. I mean, I know it's real, but I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right at all, so it may just not sound real. I was about to have y'all comment what I meant, but maybe don't do that. But it was just like a rat poison, so maybe it's not that big of a deal, but like don't get anything flagged, okay? Thanks. YouTube just texts the comments and we're all talking about so many different types of permanently banned. It starts to click to our policeman, at least. It didn't click to me until he said something that this is probably the reason Sebastian Bell woke up with a bunch of cuts on his arm and why he looked like he had to defend himself, because he probably sold whoever has this in their possession this poisonous stuff, which I'm guessing maybe in small doses is fine, or if there's some way to take it, that's fine. But if you want to poison some with it, you can. So obviously he would know who he sold it to, so he would go off and tell the police about it after a bunch of people died from this stuff. So whoever is poisoning everybody is trying to be like, let's get him out of the way before he can do so. And now it clicks that maybe somebody's trying to kill off the entire Hardcastle family, like we were discussing just a bit ago, but it just clicks for him now, and he's like, we should probably try to find Helena, but let's just focus on saving Evie, okay? He's like, Anna, I need you to go get Evie, bring her here, say that the butler wants to talk to her. I don't care what you have to do, get her here because I actually want to talk to her, but I don't know if she even likes me, okay? Can you do that? And she's like, sure. I'll do that, but you have to stay here and guard Gregory Gold and the butler then. And he's like, okay, sure thing. And then, you know what happens? It gets to 3 hours later and he's like, okay, well, Anna's not coming back. Sorry, guys. I mean, he kind of fears that the footmen may have gotten Anna, and he knows he needs to try to save her, but also he's got to figure out this whole Evie solution. So, like, really, he's got to sacrifice the two guys that can't do much in here. He's got to use his last useful body left. He goes straight to Evelyn's room, but she isn't there, so he begins searching around there again with the police brain, but doesn't see anything. And then he goes to the conjoining room of Helena's room and does a search over there as well. And then under her mattress, he finds one revolver with one empty bullet chamber, a syringe with some sort of liquid in it, a vial of blood, and a starting pistol. Now, if you don't know where this is going, this is all the stuff one would need to fake a suicide. So has Evie just not been dying this whole time? No, let me explain. After he avoids getting killed by the footmen because he hears the curtain stirring behind him and he dodges out of the way and he runs away, he gets away, everything's fine. I mean, it's not fine, he's scared, but he's fine. He lives. And he goes running off to find Evelyn near the ballroom where she's trying to help set up the ball. Now, she doesn't really want to talk to Rashton because Rashton is kind of below her pay grade, if you know what I mean. And he's like, okay, look, I know you're planning to fake a suicide. Can we just talk, please? And then he brings out the vial of blood and she's like, oh, Madeline, my maid, Madeline, that's with me right now. Can you leave? Thank you. And he explains to her that this fake suicide she's planning is going to turn into a murder. And he has a suspicion on who is actually going to kill her, but he needs proof before he can actually tell anybody about it. So he needs her to still go through with her plan. And she's like, I don't want to go through with my plan. I'm going to leave. And he's like, well, if you do that, they're just going to kill you anyway. So at least do this and you might be able to live a free life afterwards. So she makes the right decision and decides to just stay and hopefully live after this and not accidentally shoot herself.
And then he was like, okay, good. Now that you're on board, your first responsibility is to go make friends with Jonathan Darby and tell him about this planned suicide. So you can acquire his silver pistol, or this like fake suicide situation. You know what I mean. Now, cut to much later that day, like right before everything's about to go down tonight. Our little friend, the plague doctor, is by his spot in the tree, ready to watch the festivities go down again. Aiden goes over to him and he's like, hey, why'd you tell the footman about Anna? I know you're working with Daniel and the footman. I saw you talking to Daniel outside the gatehouse. And the plague doctor's like, no, what are you talking about? But he doesn't believe him at all at this point. And he doesn't have time to try to prove his innocence any further than just saying, no, I wasn't there. Because at this point, Michael is on the balcony being like, has anybody seen my sister? And then she starts like walking around like she's drunk a lot, goes to the pool, has the gun, pretends to shoot herself, fires the starting pistol at the same time though, smashes the vial of blood, and drops into the pool. And how all this works is you may be thinking, okay, could they not just see the starting pistol and the vial and stuff like that in the pool afterwards? No, the reflecting pool is very dark, murky water. So you can't see into it even in the daytime. That's why all of this works. And it's not like they're gonna drain it out anytime soon. This family is basically bankrupt. When he sees her fall into the pool, he gets paralyzed for a second. It seems to remind him of losing a woman in his life, like Aiden's actual life. But the plague doctor's like, dude, step out of it. You gotta go save her. And he's like, okay, goes. And jumps into the pool, gets her out, and Cunningham is the one holding Michael back from Evelyn, so Rashton over here can be there with Dickie as he examines her body and is like, ooh, she's dead. Dr. Dickie tells Rashton he can handle it from here, and Rashton's like, okay, look, take her to the sunroom after you're done. And then he goes over to Michael and he's like, we're taking her to the sunroom so you can say your goodbye in there, but your sister is dead. And asks him if he recognizes this weapon holding up the silver pistol, and he's like, no, I don't recognize that. And he's like, okay, hold on to it for now. I love just giving the murder weapon away. I find that really fun. I love no DNA testing because it didn't exist back then, apparently. It obviously didn't exist back then, Natalie. They have horses and carriages. They don't have DNA testing. He hands that over and the guy's like, like he looks like he saw something he wasn't supposed to see by looking at this pistol. Michael snaps out of it, thanks Aiden, and then Cunningham leads him to the sunroom where Evelyn's dead body will be waiting. Dead body. And then Aiden books it over there himself. He is running. So he can hide somewhere in there. So when Michael goes in and Cunningham shuts the door and Michael goes over to Evelyn, looks at her, looks for the bullet hole, sees no bullet hole, and he's like, oh, maybe my sister isn't actually dead. Gotta kill her myself. Gotta kill her myself! I was right! I knew it. Like I said earlier, this just felt like a little victory lap for the last little bit, but now we got some other things I need to try to solve, and I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that, so I'm gonna gloat about this. But anyways, Michael sees that she isn't dead, and he goes over, gets a pillow to like muffle the sound of the gun, and then tries to shoot her 5 more times in the chest. But it doesn't work because they filed a part of the gun down so it wouldn't actually trigger a gunshot even though there was bullets in the gun. And this is when Rashton comes out and he's like, put your hands up, and Michael's like, I can give you so much money if you just let me kill my sister right now. And he's like, no, put your hands up. So Michael drops the gun and he's like, fine. It's really clear though throughout all of this that murder doesn't come easy for Michael. Like this isn't something he enjoys doing or he's an evil person and he's doing it for the joy of the kill. He's just desperate almost, it seems like, but we don't know why quite yet, but we're gonna get into that. Rashton asks him, why are you trying to kill your sister when all I hear about the two of you is that you care about each other so much? But Michael's like, how did you even figure this out, firstly? I'm asking the questions here. I know I'm the suspect and, well, not even the suspect. I was caught red-handed. But like, how did you figure this out? And he's like, it's the 2 revolvers. Why would she take 2 and think to give one to you if she was planning her own suicide? That doesn't work. Then I figured out that you were the one who stole the revolvers and she didn't know you had the second one. So during the fireworks, you were gonna go over after she faked her own death and actually shoot her with the fireworks going off so nobody would hear your gunshot. He understands now why they used the silver pistol because they needed to change the events of the night to mess him up. But he's still not understanding why Michael could go through with this. Again, he just cared about his sister so much and he could see it throughout the 8 days he's been here or the 7 days he's been here. And that's because, yes, he truly does love his sister so much in a sisterly way. We're not going down a freaky path here. No, no, no. He truly cares about her so much that when he found out that this wasn't going to work because they had plotted with Dr. Dickey, he was going to write up the death certificate for them, but they didn't have enough money to pay him. And he told them that he was going to just go tell Peter Hardcastle after she did the fake suicide, and he decided it was better for her to die than have to live trapped with Ravencourt. And he didn't tell her any of this because he wanted her last thoughts to be thinking that she was finally free of this. And I mean, she would be free in a way in death, I guess, is his thought. Aiden throws out that he could have just killed Dickey then and not tried to kill his sister, and he's like, no, but he was going to tell my father right after, so he wouldn't even have had time to draw up the death certificate. Then he asks for a drink. Aiden obliges him, and he chugs the liquor he is given. He can't see that Michael is clearly filled with sorrow over the thought of killing his sister and the guilt from being caught at this point, and he's like, so you're saying money didn't have anything to do with it? Because we all know that Evelyn's parents threatened to cut him out of the will if Evelyn didn't go through with the marriage with Ravencourt. He acts like this is really no big deal, but then Aiden's like, I know your father's dead and I know you killed him. And where is your mother? He starts floundering, not really being able to answer. He thinks it's just out of nerves, but then it's clear that what he just drank was poison. Like, there was a lot of poison in there, and he starts dying. And then he notices that Evelyn is also having the same reaction because she had a little bit of the same liquor quite a while ago, like right before she went out ago, so 30 minutes, but she only had a little, so it took longer to react. And this is when he remembers all the chemicals he has, so he pours them all into one cup. But Gregory Gold didn't leave detailed notes on how much was necessary to stop this reaction, so he just gives all of it to Evelyn, sacrificing the answers from Michael to save her life. And it's very clear that Michael didn't know there was poison in this cup, so there is another killer on Blackheath Manor. In Blackheath, the Manor of Blackheath, which is just so good. Does this count as a solve anymore? Like, I solved who killed Evelyn, so I think I win. Right? There's still 50 more pages, so I'll give my final guesses on the Everkiller in just a second, but we got more to go through, okay? Evie wakes up and he hears her say, Millicent was murdered. It wasn't a heart attack. Derby's mother was murdered. And this is when the footman shows up and he really tries to plot his way out of this to save Rashton because he's a really good mind and really useful in this investigation, but there is just no way out, so that's the end of Rashton. And now we finally wake up with Donald Davis over here, who has been out for 55 million years. He's back though, and he's in a carriage with a couple women who are taking him back to Blackheath because they found the car and they know it's from Blackheath, so they're like, okay, we're going to the party anyways. Put the sleepy man in the carriage. But then he remembers Gregory Gold telling him as Dance not to get out of the carriage, and he's like, what do you mean? But clearly he's not too worried about it because you want to know what he does before they actually get to the house. Jumps out of the carriage, gets out of the carriage to get a shotgun to fight the footman. Once he gets the shotgun, he starts continuing towards the house, and Daniel intercepts him, still not knowing that he knows that Daniel isn't actually a version of him. And Daniel's like, the footman's in the graveyard with Anna, we need to go there. And he's like, okay. But right now he has the choice to try to go after Michael again, get these answers, or save Anna, who he promised he would get out of here with. There's two roads to go down, and he knows one of them is the wrong answer, but he chooses to save Anna. So yes, they did solve this murder and have the proof of the guns to bring, I guess, but they still have to get to the lake at 11 p.m. tonight, Anna and Aiden, to get out of here. Still not knowing if that's even gonna work because they only know that one person can get out. But these two make it to the graveyard, and once they're there, he puts a shotgun to the back of Daniel's head, and he's like, I know. And Daniel's like, well, guess I couldn't keep him up forever, oh well. Then he's asking him where the footman is because he knows they're working together. And this is where we learn that the footman, he's not a rival in this game. He's just a normal member of Blackheath that really likes to kill people. And once he found out what was going on, he was like, yes, I get to kill 8 people in one day. A complete psychopath, and I really love this choice as a character. Just a man who loves murder. It's the funniest conclusion for his character. Like, he's not some special spectral being or this creepy ghost man or anything like that. Just a dude who loves to kill people. We do get confirmed here that Daniel is like Anna, where he only gets to live for the one day and then he wakes up again not really remembering the previous day, but remembers some things but not others. You know, like that fun, complicated thing. And then he starts going on about how he has Ted's ledger and the code book so he can go to the lake at 11 p.m. and get out of here himself. And that's when we hear footsteps from behind Aiden, and it's more of his men because apparently Daniel just runs a tight ship and has a lot of bad guys on his side. So now Aiden drops his gun, and then Daniel says, you can come out now, and the plague doctor appears. But this This is not our plague doctor. This is not our guy. This is somebody else. He's asking, who are you? And she's like, I'm here to rectify the situation that my coworker messed up. Or my colleague, she says, sorry. And she really needs to know where Annabelle is. I'm trying so hard to explain this, but I know it's gonna be confusing because it's confusing to me still. I think it's meant to be still kind of confusing at this point, but I'm gonna do my best. Just please know, we have 50 more pages to go through after this, and I hope there will be more answers, but I feel like I'm really scared on how this is gonna come out in the edit. I'm gonna be so honest, and now the battery's dying. Anyways, Plague Doctor Lady goes on a rant about how her colleague isn't treating this situation fairly, and that Aiden has a big advantage on the rest of them, and I mean, he kind of does, but the others get to remember more and know the situation when they first wake up, and it took him so many days to get to this point, but yeah, no, he does have an advantage, let's all be honest here. But then the actual Plague Doctor appears, and he's like, what are you doing here, Josephine? Blackheath is under my watch, so get out. But Josephine says, no, Annabelle is way too close to escaping Anna. I figure we all figured out that Annabelle is a nickname for Anna, but you know, just in case somebody wasn't catching up with the rest of us or looking at their phone during that point. I feel like if you looked at your phone during any point in the past 2-3 minutes, you're screwed. I'm sorry. So I think Annabelle is some crazy possessed spirit at this point. They hate this woman. Remember, he was the only person who came here by choice. These two were put here for some reason. Why? We don't know. They could be horrible people. Aiden could be a horrible person for all we know. But back to Josephine, she's saying that you can't let this girl out no matter what she does. Would you actually let her out if she came to you with the answers? And he's like, yeah, I mean, if she has the answers and she comes to the lake at 11 o'clock, I'm following the rules, I would let her out. Then Josephine starts talking about superiors. Guys, it's gotten so complicated. I don't think 50 pages can explain Plague Doctor Superior time loop mortal realm things. Oh my gosh. Anyways, the two Plague Doctors, they keep arguing about all this stuff that is so far above my pay grade. Josephine at one point starts talking about how Aiden is so close to solving this puzzle. And because of this, Annabelle is so close to getting out of here because Annabelle and him are working together. Then somebody points a gun at our Plague Doctor and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Aiden doesn't have any clue if this would actually hurt him or cause anything bad to happen, but he tells him to get out of here and he can handle himself now. It's not worth losing this guy who has clearly been trying to help him through this. But he's really upset about this because this is all wrong and he's gonna tell the board about it, and then he leaves. Now Daniel takes over and he starts going into this whole evil monologue and he's like, I'm gonna cut you up into tiny little bits if you don't tell me where Anna is. And he's like, well, I'm not gonna tell you where Anna is, so go ahead. And then he starts gloating about how he only has to kill this host in gold to start winning. Like I said evil monologue, evil villain speech, that's what he's on right now. Aiden isn't too worried right now though because he knows Anna is so close to actually solving it that it's gonna be just fine. And simply refuses to give him any information on where Anna is. That is his ally. And he already had been mentally preparing himself for this because he knew this was coming. This was the thing that broke Gregory Gold, obviously. When he came to dance in the middle of the night, he was like, cut, so many cuts, it didn't stop, he wouldn't stop cutting. Like, just broke his mind, but he's ready to do it to protect Anna. And Daniel just keeps going on with this evil villain monologue. Oh my gosh. And finally, Aiden goes, I'm not the only one who's going to die here, and then does this whistle, and people start coming out of the woods in Plague Doctor costumes. I may have made that part up, but I remember there was a lot of Plague Doctors. I'm pretty sure they're in Plague Doctor costumes. I actually think they just have lanterns that flare to life, but I think it's more fun if they're in Plague Doctor costumes, so even if the book says they're not, they are. Daniel is confused on how Aiden has anyone coming to his aid because he only has one other host alive, and Anna. And he's like, yeah, you killed the host, but you didn't kill their friends and family. So he's got a one Grace who was dating and in love with Rashton, and then he has the big giant burly dude that was guarding Ted Stanwin and Lucy as well. Now he truly doesn't know if any of these people will be able to shoot and hit their mark, but hey, worth a try. So then all of Daniel's men have to go chasing after all of Aiden's men and leaving these two to fight. Daniel ends up running into the woods after a little bit of a squabble, and they end up at, you guessed it, the lake where Thomas died. They have this big fight here. They try to talk it out first, actually, sorry. They try to talk it out, it doesn't work. Then they have this whole fight here with Daniel eventually coming out on top, basically just drowning Aiden in this lake. But then it stops because Anna pulls Daniel off of him, or I guess knocks him out, and then pulls Aiden back up. But Aiden is too far gone in Greg Davis's body at this point. Like, not Greg Davis, Donald Davis's body. Davis is coughing up blood. It's not looking good. He saw little Thomas in the afterlife. Like,
He is not long for this world. And Anna just tells him to find her at 7:12 a.m. in the entrance hall. And that's when we lose Donald Davis, leaving us with one last host, Goldilocks. But real fast before we get into my other theories, let me gloat for 2 seconds. I am never right about the killer. I am never right. Trust me when I tell you I am never this good at sussing them out. I don't know if this was easy. It felt kind of easy to me, I'm not gonna lie. But I am so freaking proud I called this so early on. But it was kind of easy because he was the only one important enough throughout all of their POVs. It made it pretty obvious it was him. But now on to the second killer. When I was originally writing this, I truly didn't have that big of a theory, but the thing is, I write this, I kind of review it a little, and then I get to say all of it. So I go through it multiple times. I read it, I write it, I talk about it out loud. And I really feel like the second killer who is poisoning people may be Madeline. I don't know. Her and Michael have had like a back and forth throughout the book. It's not been a lot, but there's been enough where I feel like maybe they're in cahoots. And maybe she's in it for money from someone else. That would be my number one suspect for who killed everybody with poison, because who has the most access to like food and drinks? A maid would. Now she is mainly Evelyn's maid. I keep wanting to say Evie and Evelyn, so then Evelyn comes out really weird. But she is Evie's maid, so maybe there's some connection there and maybe she knows something. That's my number one suspect. Or you also do have Cunningham. I feel like you can't rule him out, but I'm gonna for the most part. We do have that green tattoo that we haven't learned any more information about, but I feel like he's okay. To be fair, he does have a lot of motive because he could have been treated as their sibling growing up, but wasn't, but you know, whatever. And then the Hardcastles, Mr. and Mrs. Hardcastle, I don't think it's them. I think Miss Hardcastle is just in hiding right now, and I think Cunningham warned her about it. So it's somebody Cunningham is connected to, isn't it? Oh, crap. I feel like really the only two guesses I have on the board, there's other like minor characters, but it's really got to be either Dickie or Madeline that is the other killer in this house. And we know Dr. Dickie was in cahoots with Sebastian Bell with their whole selling a lot of fun substances thing. So maybe it's him and he has easy access to that poison. And then Sebastian Bell found out he took some of that and that's why he did it. Oh my word, it's Dr. Dickie. Right? Like, yes, right? Because he poisoned the glass that he... I really think it's Dr. Dickie. Okay, first guess, Dr. Dickie. Second guess, Madeline, because it's always the maid, right? And that's about it. I'm ruling those two out. If it's them, I will be shocked if they have any involvement in these children's death. And I don't know if she actually killed Thomas. I don't know the full story that's going on there. Maybe like motherly guilt that some tragic accident happened. I don't know. But just the way it was worded, it doesn't feel like she killed Thomas and it doesn't feel like we have that whole story, but I will update you if we actually do. And I've already said the entire story there. Anyways... Oh, there is Stable Master guy. I'm not too worried about him. Should I be? No. Yeah, gosh. I have 50 pages left to read, so I'm gonna go do that. I don't know what's about to happen. This book is getting really weird. There's this whole spectral, eternal soul thing going on that I don't even know how to comprehend, so I'm kind of just ignoring it. My brain was ready for a mystery, not the mystery of the Plague Doctor mask, guys, and what's going on in the eternal realm. Okay, guys. I think we just have to enjoy the ride on that one. Okay, I think we just have to enjoy the ride. If I had to make a guess, this guy is Charlie Carver. That's who the crow is, okay? That's my only guess, though. Okay, I'm so excited to finish this. I have time to finish it before I go to bed tonight, so I will finish this tonight, do some reaction clips, and then I will hopefully be filming the next recap tomorrow. I mean, obviously, you're going to be seeing it in 1 second, so I'm going to shut up, take my hat off, and go finish this book. I'm so excited. A scandal! Ooh. Oh. I almost said this. Oh. Whoa, 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 what? Yeah, so let's talk about what I just read. Shall we? Okay. I'm gonna explain how I was so right. Not really, honestly. And so very wrong. At the end of this, I really need y'all to tell me if this is even a half win for me. Because I don't know if it is, but I've got to explain everything first. If you read this book, you've been laughing at me this entire time. I've led us all astray. If you haven't read this book, I led you so far astray. I'm gonna make it right now. I'm making it right now. We're gonna work this out, okay? It's day 8. We wake up as Gregory Gold. Madeline is in his bed because they did fun things last night, and then Madeline leaves. And then Gregory Gold uses his art skills and make this whole insane like whiteboard situation with all the details and drawing stuff like that. And the 2 questions he really has left is, why was Millicent Darby murdered? And where is Helena Hardcastle? Then the Plague Doctor shows up, shocked to see Gold here, because apparently this is just the chill spot the Plague Doctor shows up every morning because, you know, normally Gregory Gold has gone insane and isn't here by this time. Oh, and then he explains with Josephine, we're not going to see her anymore, and that's because he shot Josephine, so now she's stuck in this loop, still thinking she needs to hide from Aiden when actually everybody knows she's here already. Then the Plague Doctor looks at the wall and he's like, oh, is this what I think it is? Because the case is clearly solved here, or so we think. And Aiden's like, yes, Michael Hardcastle killed his sister, Evelyn Hardcastle. The Plague Doctor gets all excited. He's like, oh, you're free! You can go! And he's like, I don't want to go yet, though. I still have to get Anna out of here. You can't just make me leave. And he's like, no, I kind of can. Like, the next time you go to bed at this point, you're out of here. If you fall asleep or die, you are not coming back, and you cannot get Anna out of here with you. He slides down against the wall a little dejected, and he can already feel the tiredness coming over him, but he's like, no, I need to get Anna out of here. And starts arguing with the Plague Doctor about how this wasn't fair to Anna and Daniel because he's the only one that can remember the entire week. And the Plague Doctor's like, there's a reason it's not fair for them, okay? You came here by choice. They were put here. Why do you think they were put in the bad place that this is? And this bad place is actually a prison. I didn't know you could break into a prison and decide you're there now, but apparently that's what Aiden did. I love the idea of showing up to a jail and being like, no, I've done nothing wrong, but lock me up. Do it. Please? Yeah, so anyways, you may be really confused about this whole prison situation because this seems like a crazy prison, but apparently there are thousands of places like this, and they figured out, instead of just locking the prisoner up, they decided they could put the prisoners to work and make them solve unsolved murders because, you know, why not? And they only get the 1 day because during that 1 day, they get the chance to prove themselves as worthy of leaving this place, as showing they've changed as a person. Aiden's like, okay, why did I choose to go to prison? Why? And the Plague Doctor simply explains he came for Anna. But it's a little more complicated than that, but we'll get to that in a second. The Plague Doctor goes over that, yes, he came for Anna, but it was in a very different way than what he's thinking. And he forgot the true reason he came here a while ago. And ever since then, the Plague Doctor has been talking to his superiors, and he's like, this guy doesn't even know why he's here. It's not fair of us to keep him here. And they're like, it's a fun experiment, keep him. The Plague Doctor feels guilty about this, and knows that this is an innocent man in here and wants to get him out, so that's why he has been helping him more than Daniel and Anna. He's now hung up on the fact that he wants to know what Anna did, but the Plague Doctor is refusing to tell him that, and he's like, no, when you fall asleep, you'll just leave, and it'll be that. It'll be fine after that. And Aiden goes, okay, yeah, sure, I can leave, but I found my way in the first time, I'll find my way back in again. The Plague Doctor starts to get very serious at this moment and even takes off his mask and reveals that his name is actually Oliver, and finally explains to him what Anna did. Anna was known as a woman named Annabelle Calker, and her name was spoken like a curse in every language. She just so happened to be a leader of a group that caused a lot of destruction and death across at least half the nations of the world, and she would still be doing that right now if she hadn't been caught 30 years ago. That is who he's trying to free. But Aiden's like, no, dude, she's changed. We're friends now. She's a whole different person. And they argue back and forth like this for a little bit, and the Plague Doctor just gets sick of it, and he's like, Anna murdered your sister. See, your sister got promoted to lead the project to hunt down Anna and deal with her. But then Anna found out, and she came to your sister's house, killed her husband, took her, and then tortured her for an entire week, streaming this to the entire world to watch, and then killed her.
That is what led Aiden to breaking into the prison to deal with Anna, because he didn't think this punishment was justice. He didn't think trying to solve a murder and reliving the same day over and over again was actually justice. He wanted her to suffer the same way his sister did. And he came in here and he tortured her day after day after day after day and killed her every day that he was here until eventually he forgot.
So yeah, I don't know about y'all, but if somebody told me all of this, if somebody told me that this person had kidnapped my sister, killed her husband, tortured her for 7 days, and then killed her, I'm leaving them. Sorry. I don't care what you seem like in here. If I know that's your potential and I know what you did to my sister, no, you're not getting out of here. You're staying. But Aiden, on the other hand, he's like, but she's a different person now. Is she? I don't know if I believe that fully, because she's still being ruthless and she still takes charge so well. She still has this leadership ability. I don't fully trust this woman. And you know what? Maybe Aiden isn't as spiteful at me, but gosh dang it. Why would you let this woman out? And why? I don't know. I get it. He also doesn't have all his memory, so he really doesn't remember his sister, so it doesn't feel as personal for him, because he's kind of just like a guy that is Aiden's consciousness, but from like 30 years past that has been through multiple other people day after day after day. And it's a very weird mental state to be in, but I feel like there's just some familial root that you're like, nope, sorry, Annabelle, I'm leaving ya. Actually, before I would leave, I would probably take her out one last time. I'd be like, oh well, one last little bit of revenge. And so this is how Aiden still thinks that Anna has turned a new leaf and makes a deal with the plague doctor that if she can figure out who murdered Millicent, she'll be set free, as well as him for figuring out who killed Evelyn Hardcastle. They know that the person who killed Evelyn was Michael, but Millicent's death is still a mystery. The plague doctor doesn't fully agree to this, but he promises to be at the lake at 11 o'clock tonight. And he'll make his judgment then. And then as he walks over to Blackheath, he tries to remember what him and Miss Derby were talking about when he was Jonathan Derby, that drove her off in such a hurry. And then he recalls they were outside the ballroom. He was caught staring at Evelyn. His mother had assumed the worst of him, as she should have at that point, and said, "It's sad it's always the weak ones with you. It's always the trailed off." And then she lost her train of thought. And that makes him question who else was there with Evelyn. Who else did she see in that ballroom that could get her to stop talking after she was just talking about all the time she spent at Blackheath when she was a child, and then she watched her kids grow up here. She knew this family very well. So what made her stop talking all of a sudden? Well, we'll answer that in a little bit, because he's not going to tell you right now, and neither am I. But something clicks for him and he goes to the art gallery. And let's just say there's a reason Gregory Gold was hired to retouch the family paintings. And Millicent Derby was killed because she has a good memory. Are you getting where this is going yet? Then we go over to meet with Anna for the first time. Now, when she meets with Gregory Gold, or Goldie over here, this is the first time she's met with any version of Aiden. So they have a nice meeting at first, and then she remembers that Aiden killed her, like, a lot. And she doesn't really trust this guy, but eventually he gets her to calm down and trust him again, and is like, I need your help today so we can both get out of here. Then he gets the book out filled with instructions on what he needs her to do that day and hands it to her, saying that she needs to follow this, again, so they can both get out of here. And now we cut over to Gold purposely attacking the butler, so him and the butler can be in the gatehouse and be safe there for most of the day, or be safe until they're needed later. And then we wake up as the butler. Apparently the butler was not killed last time. Now, he definitely was stabbed. He has a stab wound, not feeling great, but when he turns over a little, it causes searing pain, but he does see Anna tied to the radiator in there, and he's like, uh-oh. She explains to him that the footman grabbed her outside, threatened her, and that's how she ended up in here, pointing out that this was him. So she didn't want to betray him, and she never actually did. Then the footman comes back in, and he's wanting to know where Donald Davis will be when he gets out of the carriage so Daniel can talk to him, and he knows this is what normally would lead Gregory Gold to go crazy, but he also knows this is the opportunity he had to figure out a lot of stuff, and the only reason that the plague doctor knew about Josephine. And Aiden doesn't really care about when he hands these answers over, but he drags it out for a little bit, waiting for his time. He closes his eyes because he knows this monster of a man is going to want to see the fear in them as he kills the butler, but eventually he has to open them back up, and when he does, the footman
goes towards him, but he flings himself, like not really controlled, but just flings himself at the butler, knocking the knife out of his hand. It goes skirting over to where Anna can grab it. She cuts herself loose, and then she kills the footman. And after that, the butler passes back out. We don't know if he dies here or just passes out, but bye-bye, butler, officially now. When he wakes up as Goldie over here, he's in the room hanging up by his hands. Anna cuts him down. Anna, where am I? There's two blonde ladies up here and I'm getting confused. Anna cuts him down and he's like really struggling to get words out, kind of stumbling around. A little note falls out of his pocket, but he gets out, "What time is it?" And she tells him it's 9:45 and hands him back the note, which he explains to us has written on it all of them. And those words are apparently the key to everything, but he's not going to tell us all about that yet either, because again, we're going to find it out soon enough, I promise. Once he's feeling a little better, they leave the gatehouse and they head towards the lake, where they see Daniel dealing with Donald Davis, and he tells Anna to go tell Donald Davis to meet her at 7:12 the next morning. While she's doing all of this, he heads over to the boathouse, and he sees a few boats in there, and only one of them has a sheet covering it. So he goes over, removes the sheet, and he sees a very dead Miss Hardcastle. Anna runs in now, sees the body, and is like, "How did you know she was gonna be here?" And it's because this is the last appointment she kept. Why didn't I catch on to that earlier? I forgot what appointment was there. I'm so dumb. The last appointment, I got lazy and I didn't want to go back and look for it, but the last appointment she kept was meeting with Evelyn at the lake house that morning. Remember? Do you remember? Then he's like, "Oh, the size of the cut in her throat is the same size as a horse knife," a horse knife, not what you think I said the first time, which is the same weapon that was used to kill Thomas Hardcastle 19 years ago. Anna's like, "Oh, did Michael do this?" And he's like, "No, Michael's too afraid for murder. He doesn't actually like doing it. He just did that because he really cares about his sister the first time, but this is not an act he would commit." And then asks her why the killer would pick a spot 20 feet away from the original murder. And then he starts talking about how Thomas's killer must have been covered in blood when they killed Thomas, so they came in here to wash up and then they changed their clothes. And goes over and finds an old carpet bag over there filled with bloody women's clothes. Anna still doesn't understand what's going on, and neither did I at this point. But the killer's gonna reveal themselves soon because there's a growing light in the distance right now. And he had told Cunningham to spread the word around the house that him and this Anna girl were going to be at the boathouse around this time, so the killer would know. She's like, why'd you invite the killer here? And he's like, "I can't be the one to explain this to the plague doctor. You have to do it." Then he just hands her the note that says all of them, and he reveals that this is the answer to the question he had for Miss Drudge. Now, what was the question he had for Miss Drudge? You might be asking. Well, let me tell ya. The question he had for Miss Drudge was, how many of the Hardcastle children are Charlie Carver's? All of them. Every single one. Not a single one of these children was ever Mr. Hardcastle's, Lord Hardcastle, whatever you want to call him. They were all Charlie Carver's. And he wanted to know this because he wanted to know who Charlie would give his life for. Of course, his kids. And then Madeline appears at the door. Yeah, not who you were expecting, right? Because me either. She's not in her maid uniform right now. She's in a loose shirt and some trousers, looking like she's ready to rumble or something, I don't really know. And without her makeup and her mask of servitude, it's clear now that this isn't Madeline. There's no Madeline. There's never been a Madeline. This is actually Evelyn Hardcastle. But Anna isn't quite getting this yet, so he starts laying out some clues. Wearing a signet ring she had given to Felicity. Now, I don't know where this was mentioned in the book, but apparently I missed that. And of course, why was Millicent Derby dead? Oh, and also, sorry, there's a lot of things he's laying out clues for. Why was Gregory Golden hired to retouch those paintings when the rest of the house was crumbling? And of course, most importantly, who would Helena Hardcastle and Charlie Carver be willing to die to protect? And this is when it clicks for her that, of course, this isn't Madeline standing in the doorway right now holding a gun, aiming it at them. This is actually Evelyn Hardcastle, the daughter of Charlie Carver and Lady Hardcastle. And Evelyn is so delighted they figured it out. She is giddy, like ready to jump up and down with joy. She loves this. And then we dive back into 19 years ago, learning that Evelyn was the one who killed her brother back then. He figures if her plan would have worked out back then, her brother's murder would have been exactly like her mother's murder that happened today. But something went horribly wrong that day, clearly, because that's not how the murder worked out. And she's like, oh, kind of, but the boathouse was actually just the backup plan. My first plan was to hit him over the head with a rock, make him pass out, and let him drown in the ocean, or the lake. It would look like a natural cause of death. But when she actually hit him over the head with the rock, he just screamed and screamed. It didn't knock him out. And so, as you do when you're like a 10-year-old girl and you panic, you just slice your brother's throat open, or stab it into there, I should say. And when Lady Hardcastle and Charlie Carver stumbled upon them, she didn't even really have to make up an excuse because Charlie Carver made it up for her. He was like, Helena, it was just kids playing. It was an accident, but we have to cover this up, blah, blah, blah. And they make a plan for Evelyn to go off and go ride in the forest for a bit, and for Charlie Carver, her father, to go to her room with a nice bag and bring her a fresh pair of clothes so she doesn't walk into the house covered in blood. And that's all they really told her at the time, and she didn't learn the rest until she was shipped off to Paris. He didn't know that Ted had found them in the forest, and that's why her father had to admit to murdering his son. And the only reason he didn't tell the police that Helena was the one holding him was because he was friends with Charlie Carver, and he wanted to do him a favor, but also get a lot of money from the Hardcastles. And of course, when Charlie Carver did all of this, he had no clue that his daughter had pre-planned this murder, and that she already had clothes waiting in the boathouse that weren't discovered until 18 years later, when her mother, just last year, was doing her annual walk around the lake and found that bag in the boathouse with her clean clothes for that day that she never changed out of, and that's why she broke and decided to throw this party, because she wanted to punish her daughter, Evelyn, for actually murdering her son and sending her true love to the gallows to protect her. Now, why would Evelyn murder Thomas? Well, Thomas was a snoop, and he was very good at it, so he was very quiet. And at this time, she was kind of sneaking around with a little stable boy, Keith Parker. You remember him, the one that mysteriously went missing just a little bit before Thomas died? Well, it turns out one day she was out with Thomas, and he fell into a hole, but she could have gotten help, and they could have gotten him out of the hole, and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But she just figured that she didn't want to do that, and thought it was more fun to just leave him there to die. So that's what she did. But, her little brother may have been stooping, so she had to take care of that. And I should mention at this point, she doesn't feel guilty about any of this. She's just so happy to be telling somebody about this. But really, she's at the end of her story, so she's getting ready to kill them, and I was like, wait. We want to talk to you more and learn more from you, but also, if you shoot us out here, it's going to be too loud. You need to get us to somewhere quieter. So they start walking back to the gatehouse and talking on the way. Aiden is really hoping the plague doctor is here at this point so he can see that Anna is nothing like Evelyn anymore. Anna has changed completely. She's in danger in this situation, and Evelyn's the murderer, the evil person, and Anna just seems so innocent in comparison, but the plague doctor is nowhere to be seen right now. Anyways, they get Evelyn to keep talking about why her mother threw this party. Like I already said, it was to embarrass her, and the real reason she's marrying Lord Ravencourt is that her mother threatened to turn her in and let the cops deal with her for the murder of her brother. But, like we've already discussed multiple times, the Hardcastles are in a financial need right now, so they really needed some money, so they're like, look, we won't tell anybody, or Helena was like, look, we won't tell anybody if you just marry Lord Ravencourt. So instead of following through with that, she just decided to kill him instead. That seemed easier. Murdering her father is more as a gift to Michael, so her father didn't ruin his inheritance and he could actually have money to buy Ted Stanwin's business with Daniel, because that was the plan. They're going to be co-partners with the blackmail business. So it turns out the woman's boot print outside her father's window was actually hers. And then they're like, okay, did you have a reason for killing your mother? And she's like, no, I mean, she was safe until she threatened to turn me in, so really, I just think she committed suicide. If she wouldn't have invited me back, she would still be alive. This woman's insane. So now that we know the reason for murdering her own parents, we get into, who this other Evelyn has been this whole time, and it turns out this is where Felicity Maddox comes into play. See, Felicity is a con woman, so she was playing the part of Evelyn, and then, they were actually just going to kill her at the end anyways, to make sure there was no risk of her secret getting out. And then calls this woman an insect, because after the police talked to her, instead of confessing everything to them, she went to Michael to ask for more money, and she just finds that so reproachful, and now considers her and her brother's murder an act of public service, because nobody should be around somebody who would ask for more money, right? So even though I was right about Michael killing the person that was pretending to be Evelyn, I still feel like I was wrong. like I said, I don't know how this counts. Of course I wasn't right about anything because I never guessed the switch up between Madeline and Evie. When I was guessing Madeline, I was guessing her as a maid, not as Evelyn Hardcastle. Am I dumb? Did y'all see this coming? Because I had no clue. Like, look at this reaction I had.
What? Oh my. Oh, I was so right, yet so wrong.
No clue! Okay, so we got the Felicity Maddox question answered, and now let's go to Derby over here. Miss Derby, and why she had to be murdered. See, she recognized the actual Evelyn Hardcastle, and then she went to go look at the portraits, made it kind of obvious, so Evelyn had to kill her too, so she poisoned her, then put a pillow over her face, and she made it look like she had a heart attack. Oh well. And now that she's told them everything, she's about to shoot them, but he blurts out, "Why did you kill Michael?" And she's like, "I didn't kill my brother. I did not do that." And he's like, "No, you poisoned him. He's dead." And she starts freaking out, and she's like, "No, don't lie to me," and then hits him with the gun. Doesn't knock him out. He's still up, just a little more bloody now, and Anna has to be like, "No, he's telling the truth. Michael is dead." And this is the first time we see any other emotion besides like giddy joy from her, and she starts crying because she truly does care about Michael. She doesn't want him dead. And the thing is, it's true. She didn't mean to kill her brother, but she did mean to have a backup plan just in case her brother didn't actually shoot Felicity. So she poisoned Felicity's brandy. And then that is the very same brandy that Michael ended up drinking. So whoops. And now Aiden finally sees the plague doctor outside of the window, and he's like, "Oh, thank goodness we're safe," but the plague doctor is just standing here watching all of this, and he's like, "Why?" So he runs to the window, starts banging on it out of anger that the plague doctor is doing nothing about this. Anna jumps out of the way scared, and then Evelyn runs over to him trying to get him to stop, thinking he's acting out of desperation and not anger. I don't know why she doesn't shoot him at this time, but she doesn't. Anna then goes over to comfort Aiden, try to calm him down, and says, "Don't come back for me," and then lunges at Evelyn, and there is a gunshot. Aiden runs straight over to Anna, but she's fine. Then they see the bullet hole in Evelyn. And then they see Felicity Maddox standing in the door with a gun. And just to make sure Evelyn is dead, Felicity walks over and she shoots her again, and then empties the chamber into her body. She is pissed. And she's just still standing over Evelyn once the chamber is empty, still trying to pull the trigger, but no more bullets are in that gun. There is no more damage she can do. So the plague doctor comes in, just takes the gun from her, and Felicity's like, "Okay, bye." And then leaves. And the plague doctor explains the reason he wasn't at the lake is because he got there and then he saw their situation and wanted to give Felicity the option to get her revenge. So he went to the house and told her all about Evelyn's actual plan. And it turns out the plague doctor didn't even know there was a fake Evelyn. He was just watching and not paying attention. And he tells them the reason that he helped them and told Felicity is for her to get her justice. She deserved to have the choice to kill Evelyn, and that's what she did. And both of them have proven to deserve their freedom, and he didn't want them to fail at the final hurdle. So he asked Anna, who killed Evelyn Hardcastle? And she's like, wait, what about Aiden? Since he was technically wrong and Michael didn't kill Evelyn Hardcastle and instead tried to kill Felicity. I'm not really too concerned about that because Aiden Bishop figured out who killed Michael, Peter, and Helena Hardcastle and attempted murder on Felicity Maddox. So he only needs an answer from Anna to be able to let them both go. She doesn't answer again though, and she's like, "What about Aiden's other hosts? What will happen to them?" And he's like, "Aiden's other hosts are just basically a mirage, a mirror charade. They're just like little clock gears that are moving without actually having Aiden's consciousness in them. It's all a charade." And then it's like, "Look, Anna, you gotta trust me. Who killed Evelyn Hardcastle? And then I can let you go." She looks at Aiden, gets a nod from him, and then she says, "Felicity Maddox." And he announces that both of them are free. I'm sure this won't have any consequences to the rest of the world. Aiden begins sobbing because finally this nightmare is over. Then Anna looks up at the plague doctor and is like, "What happens next? Because I don't remember anything besides this morning." So he explains to them that when they are let out, they'll be given all their possessions that they came in here with back, and that includes their past memories. But if they choose to, they don't have to get those memories back. They can just leave and have the memory of this place. Anna then says goodbye to the plague doctor, leaves the house, leaving Aiden Bishop and the plague doctor alone for a little bit. The plague doctor stops Aiden before he can leave, and he's like, look, don't get your memories back, and when you get out of here, you have to run, and never stop running, because they will not stop looking for her ever. Aiden checks on what's going to happen to Oliver, and he's like, my superiors will be mad, but we'll worry about that tomorrow. For right now, I'm just going to enjoy this evening. Then puts out his hand to shake Aiden Bishop's hand. They shake hands, and he wishes him good luck. He goes out the door, meets with Anna on the road leading away from Blackheath, and they start walking. As they're walking away, he thanks all the hosts that have helped him at Blackheath because he's been feeling them throughout the day in his mind, trying to tug him in different directions. And then he thanks Aiden Bishop. And Aiden Bishop, at this point, basically says goodbye to his own consciousness and body and says it's yours now to this new Aiden Bishop, who only has the memory of these past 8 days and the 30 years prior 8 days as well, but like not really. So basically we're letting a 1-day-old and 8-day-old person into the world. I mean, they still have all the basic knowledge and stuff like that, but yeah, anyways, that's how the book ends. We get no more explanations on how the check works to let them in this place, but I feel like that'd be too complicated to actually write out, so I understand that. But the murder was fun and twisty, but for some reason I'm left unsatisfied. And I think it's because Aiden didn't turn on Anna in the end, and that's what I wanted to happen. I wanted us to have a more complex character that, even though there are arguments that Anna had shown her innocence now and shown that she had changed to a new person, at the end he was still like, no, screw you, die. And then the book ends like that, and we get all this nice justice, but now it just feels like this horrible, evil person is being let go. Like, she's so evil. Her name is said as a curse in every language, and you let her out? I'm with the plague doctor's superiors. What are we doing here, guys? Oh, gosh. This is another moment where God is looking down on me, and he's like, really? Have you seen all the people I've forgiven because they believe in me? Really? And I'm over here, I'm like, but her? I'll stop with the theological talk, but like, truly, how? Let me know what you think, if I'm even half right on this, because I don't know if I am. I got the first initial thing and I figured it out pretty early, and then I was like, cool, we're good. That's gonna be the fun twist. Her brother murdered her. That's a good enough twist, right? Wrong. Freaking Evelyn murdering her entire family. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go read a non-mystery book to let my brain unfry for a bit, but if you want to see me attempt to solve another mystery book in the future, like this video, leave a comment on what mystery books you think I should solve. Leave no spoilers under those, please. And I did realize so when I was starting this recap, I wanted a picture of Aiden and Evelyn up here because they're the two characters that are really named on the back of this book. So I wanted their photo up here. And when I was Googling, the Google at one point said that she had dark hair. No, the Google didn't say that because I was like, no spoilers. So Google was like, yeah, blonde hair like Felicity Maddox has. But my sister had sent me something that said dark hair, and I was like, that's odd. I don't know what that means. And didn't think anything of it, and it just clicked recently that she accidentally spoiled it because Madeline over here has dark hair for the entire book. I still can't believe Madeline was the freaking Evelyn. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna go. I need to go decompress from this book. I'm taking my detective hat off. I am off duty, and I have failed once again, so maybe one day I'll actually solve a murder, but that day is not today. A murder in a book. I'm never solving a real life murder, let's be honest. There's no hope for that after this performance. Yep, I'll see you guys in the next video. Again, if you like this, please like, comment, subscribe, and bye y'all. Now, Ravencourt is a very large man, and that is the first thing what did I just say? Now, from this point on, I'm just going to refer to the car. Wow, that's a loud car. Must be so cool. When Dr. Dickey gets back to his room, I gave myself a concussion. Ow. And Aiden's like, yep, Markle. I'm from Texas. We say Markle. Instead of locking a prisoner in a cell. Wow, my southerner is coming out tonight, a cell. Instead of locking a prisoner in a jail cell. Oh my, I can't stop. Instead of locking a prisoner in a jail, it's getting bad.